Chapter 872. The bright sun shone down on the earth as hundreds of flowers bloomed, embellishing the villa's courtyard with a beautiful scene. Holding a book, Tan Xiao quietly sat on a stone bench in the villa's courtyard, but he didn't have any intention to read it. The sudden news made him temporarily give up on his plan to go to tea country. "We can only wait, Mr. Tang." With a bit of regret in his eyes, Xingluan stood in front of Tan Xiao and spoke helplessly. Tan Xiao nodded in silence. After a long while, he said, "Since your big brother has temporarily gone to Europe, then we'll talk about it later. Keep an eye on him and inform me immediately once you get the news of his return to tea country." "Don't worry. I'll definitely send someone to keep an eye on him," said Xingluan. "That's right about our deal. I'll be waiting for you in Shanghai 3 days later," said Tan Xiao. "I'll give you the pill as long as you bring me the sorcerer's stone. Xingluan, we did have some conflicts before, but it's all in the past. I hope you won't take it to heart. I hope we can be friends in the future, not enemies." "I understand, Mr. Tang," said Xingluan solemnly. "Although there is a mutually beneficial relationship between us, I don't dare to provoke you and I can't afford to offend you. It's better to be friends with a powerhouse than to be an enemy. I'll never do anything to let you down as long as you don't do anything to harm me in the future." "Keep your words in mind and go," said Tan Xiao with satisfaction. Xingluan didn't stay any longer and left under Tan Xiao's watchful eyes. The jade rat had given him a huge opportunity, and he wanted to seize it. Therefore, he must hurry back to find out his big brother's whereabouts and strive to help Tan Xiao get the jade pig. The zodiac carvings might have some benefits for him, but the gap was too big compared to elixirs. He wanted to get more pills to make his strength advance by leaps and bounds and become a real powerhouse. He also hoped that he could use these pills to cultivate a large number of experts. At the very least, he wanted them to be like Tang Xiao's men. Even if they were to face the famous Zhang family in Macau, they could still crush them with a strong deterrence. In the courtyard, Tan Xiao looked at Chen Anhu, who was practicing seriously according to the cultivation method he taught him, and sighed in his heart. Actually, he could help Chen Anhu step onto the path of cultivation, but the path of immortality was difficult, and once he failed, his soul might scatter and he would be consigned to eternal damnation. Right now, although he had imparted the cultivation method to his parents and a dozen core members of the Tang family, he did not have much hope for them. After all, cultivating and seeking the Tao wasn't something that could be done in a day. Whether or not they could achieve great things in the future and ascend to the celestial realm depended on him. "Xiao, are you thinking about something?" Tang Yunda walked in from outside and was surprised to find that his son didn't notice him. Tan Xiao came back to his senses and said with a smile, "I'm indeed thinking about something, Dad." "What? Are you done?" Tang Yunda couldn't help laughing and said, "What's so busy about me?" He just looked at the financial statements of the company in Macau to understand the company's recent business. "Actually, the busiest person is your Uncle Chin. But what's wrong with him? Does he want to follow you in cultivation?" "Uncle Chin isn't suitable for cultivation, at least not now," said Tan Xiao. "I'll teach him some training methods to strengthen his body and prolong his life. Let him cultivate first. Everyone wants to obtain immortal fate, but how can this path be so easy to walk on?" Tang Yunda laughed. "Otherwise, the number of cultivators in the world wouldn't be so few." "That's right. Have you solved the matters in Macau? What's your next plan? Or are you going to tea country?" "Xingluan told me that his brother went to Europe, so I won't go to tea country for the time being." Tan Xiao shook his head. "I'm going back to the mainland tomorrow to deal with some urgent matters." "I feel more and more useless compared to you, Xiao," said Tang Yunda with a forced smile. "But you're still young, so don't work too hard. You can't make enough money, and your career is also endless. As for cultivation, you should also have some relaxation and slowly progress. In my opinion, you should take a good rest for some time, have a relationship, and enjoy life. Your mother is looking forward to holding a grandson." "I'm only 21 years old, Dad, so I'm not in a hurry," said Tan Xiao. "I'm still young, so I need to be more aggressive. I'll fight more if I can. My path is destined to be different from others. If I don't work hard now, it will be difficult for me to move forward in the future." Tang Yunda was silent for a while. Then he seriously asked, "Can you tell me what your ultimate dream is, Xiao? What exactly are you working so hard for?" Tan Xiao got up and pointed to the vast sky, saying, "The goal of the first stage is to break the shackles above my head and set foot on a higher space. As for the future, eagles soar in the sky, fishes soar in the shallow waters, and all kinds of creatures compete for freedom in the frosty sky. The Lost and Lost corridor asks the vast earth, who will be the master of the ups and downs?" "You?" Tang Yunda stared blankly at Tan Xiao. He opened his mouth but swallowed back the words he wanted to say. His son's words made him realize that his son's heart was very big, so big that he couldn't even imagine it. Tan Xiao let out a faint smile and looked at Tang Yunda. Then he suddenly said, "Dad, I suddenly changed my mind. Since I've decided to go back to the mainland first, I won't waste any more time. I'll go back immediately." "That's right, when will you go back?" "I'll stay here for some time," said Tang Yunda. "I'll leave after solving the port's matter." Tan Xiao nodded and shouted in a deep voice, "Gu Tao, Zhang Ju, both of you will follow my father for the time being and protect his safety. I'll arrange someone to replace you when I go back." "Understood." Gu Tao and Zhang Ju appeared outside the courtyard and respectfully complied. Evening. Tan Xiao returned to Shanghai and contacted Shui Yu immediately. After learning that she was in Xichang province, he immediately rushed over with Mo, Jin Shi, Shui Sha, and He Xiong. It was already 10 o'clock in the evening when he arrived there. Chang City, the capital city of Xichang province, had been developing rapidly in recent years and had reached the level of a second-tier city in the country. The Bai Square in the center of the city was filled with high-rise buildings and high-end shops. The Chang City Hotel was located near the Bai Square. Tan Xiao. At the hotel's entrance, Shui Yu, dressed in a long white dress, watched Tan Xiao get out of the car in front of her. She was very happy because she had been busy out of town recently, while Tan Xiao was also busy out of town. It had been a long time since the two of them met. Tan Xiao faintly smiled and stepped forward to hug her. Then he asked with a smile, "How are you doing here?" "I think it's very easy according to your previous idea," said Shui Yu with a smile. "Now, aside from medicinal herbs, I'm also dabbling in jade, antiques. The company I've registered is also expanding very fast, and the profits brought by the business are very high." Tan Xiao chuckled and said, "It's no problem to do business, but don't delay your cultivation. The path we must take in the future is destined to be different from ordinary people." "I know," said Shui Yu with a smile. "Let's go." Tan Xiao nodded. "We'll rest here for the night and immediately rush to Longquan Bay in Kanas tomorrow morning. We'll strive to open the immortal trove as soon as possible and see what's inside." Shui Yu hesitated and asked, "Can we stay for one more day? I still have some things to deal with here. The guests I invited will arrive in Chang City tomorrow afternoon." "Poor they." Tan Xiao was surprised. "There are two of them," said Shui Yu. "One is an herb gatherer, and the other is a dragon-seeking master. Both of them are not ordinary people. An elder in the clan introduced them to me after I returned to the village. The elder said that if I can get their help, it'll be equal to having my left and right arms in the future." "I know about herb gatherers," said Tan Xiao with a puzzled expression. "They're people who make a living by gathering herbs in the mountains. But who are these dragon-seeking masters? I've never heard of them before." While holding Tan Xiao's arm, Shui Yu entered the elevator under the jealous gazes of countless people who looked at Tan Xiao. Then she said, "Dragon-seeking masters are actually a kind of feng shui master who possesses a special method to find dragons and seal acupoints. This kind of people have profound attainments in feng shui and are best at finding mineral deposits. Rumor has it that this dragon-seeking master has done a lot of sensational things. I won't tell you the specifics, but you can meet him." "Is he good at finding mineral deposits?" asked Tan Xiao with squinted eyes. "Of course. He seems to be a world-famous geologist," said Shui Yu. "Then we'll stay here for one more day." Tan Xiao nodded and said, "All right, let's not talk about this anymore. All right, let's not talk about this anymore. How have you been recently? Are you tired from running around?" "No, I'm not tired at all." Shui Yu smiled and said, It's just that I often feel that I don't have enough funds, so I can't do anything. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, "If you're short of money, then look for me. Your man lacks everything except money. How about this? I'll transfer 1 billion to you later. Just tell me if it's not enough." Along with a burst of laughter, a discordant voice also sounded in the elevator. "I've seen people who can brag, but I've never seen anyone who can boast to such a high degree. 1 billion? Why don't you say 10 billion? Tan Xiu and Shui Yu glanced at each other and then looked at the only outsider in the elevator at the same time. It was a young man in a suit and tie with a briefcase under his elbow. He was the one who just spoke with sarcasm and ridicule. "How should I address you, brother?" asked Tan Xiu with a smile. The young man rolled his eyes and looked like he didn't want to talk to him. However, his eyes swept over Shui Yu's snow-white neck and face before he finally said, "My surname is Wu and given name is Kuan. I should be a few years older than you, so you won't suffer a loss if you call me brother." Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and didn't talk to Wu Kuan again. When the elevator reached the 4th floor, he was pulled by Shui Yu to leave the elevator. After passing through a long corridor, they entered a luxurious room. "I know that young man, Tan Xiu. He's a very persistent salesman. He seems to come to this hotel every day to talk about a big business deal, and every day he comes to block a boss." Shui Yu gently took off Tan Xiu's coat and smilingly said. Chapter 873. Tang Xiu comfortably sat on the sofa and said with a smile on the corner of his mouth, "Did you see that I'm a bit interested in that brat?" "That's right. His fate is very interesting," said Shui Yu with a smile. "It's indeed interesting." Tan Xiu chuckled. "He's a born rebel. His life is bumpy, yet he has to go against the current. If he doesn't die prematurely, he'll become an ambitious and ruthless character in the future. He only has 7 days left to live at most." Shui Yu shook her head. "You divined?" Tan Xiu was surprised. "I had nothing to do, so I divined a bit," said Shui Yu with a smile. "What's funny is that his recent disaster is because of his mouth." Tan Xiu sighed. "Silence is golden for many people. If they can't control their mouths, I'm afraid they'll bring disaster upon themselves. Forget it. Let's not talk about him. How's your study of the 6 starlight array? Do you have the confidence to crack the array alone?" Shui Yu shook her head. "My comprehension of the 6 starlight array is less than 20%. However, I'm confident that we can get the immortal trove if we go to Kana's Longquan Bay." "Why are you so confident?" Tan Xiu was surprised. "I have confidence in you." Shui Yu chuckled. "From what I know about you, you won't waste your time to go to Kana's if you don't have enough confidence. Have you thoroughly comprehended the 6 starlight array?" "I don't have 100% assurance." Tan Xiu chuckled. "I must go to the 6 starlight array to investigate and comprehend it. If our luck is good, we can open the immortal trove and see what's inside. I performed a divination after receiving your call yesterday." Shui Yu smiled. "But the situation is still the same as before. I can't figure out your situation." Tang Xiu chuckled and said, "It's fine if you can't calculate it. It's good if we can get the immortal trove, but it doesn't matter if we can't." "That's right. Come with me to a place after this trip to Kana's. Perhaps we'll need to live and cultivate there for a long time." Asked Shui Yu curiously. "9 Dragons Island," answered Tan Xiu. Shui Yu's eyes lit up and she quickly asked, "Is it the place where Ancestor wants to live in seclusion? The island you bought overseas?" Tan Xiu said with a smile, "That's right, that's the place." The reconstruction of 9 Dragons Island was supposed to be completed in early June, but the construction was delayed due to the weather. However, it won't be long. At most, we'll be able to move in within 2 months. "I'll go with you." Shui Yu nodded. On the 5th floor of the Changchang Hotel, in the corridor covered with a red carpet, Li Chang leaned against the wall of the corridor, his eyes staring at the door of the guest room opposite. This was the 9th time he came here to wait for the owner of the machinery factory. In order to sell the mechanical parts produced by the company, he had racked his brains. "I'm still short of $90,000. As long as this deal is done, I'll be able to get the money. When the time comes, we'll fire that bastard from the company." Li Chang recalled the shameless face of the manager of the company's sales department and felt disgusted inside. He had fired a total of 8 bosses over the years. Every time before he fired the boss, he was able to make a profit and leave. Unfortunately, his family had a bottomless pit of money. The medical expenses of hundreds of thousands of yuan a year made him live in an abyss of suffering. Suddenly, he remembered the guy he had just met in the elevator. He was very clear about the concept of 1 billion yuan. In this day and age, those who could casually take out 1 billion yuan were all big shots in the business world. But that brat, it's really a pity for that Belle. Why did she find such an unreliable guy? Alas, this bro is already taken. Otherwise, I could have given that Belle a good future. Li Chang smiled. As the thought flashed in his mind, he saw the door of the guest room opposite opened. 2 enchanting women with long legs and slender waists came out from the inside. The owner of the machinery factory, whom he had been waiting for 9 days, came out with a red face. Boss Huang. Li Chang hurriedly greeted him. Upon seeing Li Chang, the smile on the glowing Boss Huang's face suddenly froze. After 2 seconds of sluggishness, he immediately took a step back and then forcefully closed the door from the inside. Bam! Looking at the closed door, Li Chang's heart was filled with anger. The 2 smiling women stopped and looked at Li Chang's constantly changing expression. One of them suddenly laughed and said, "Hey handsome, do you want this younger sister to accompany you? The price is absolutely fair, and I'll definitely serve you better than that Boss Huang inside." Scram! Li Chang panted heavily and took a step back, leaning on the wall again as he shouted. The woman angrily glared at Li Chang. She turned around and scolded, "You're just a pauper, yet you're still pretending? Rich people are rolling in bed with women in their rooms, while the pauper is just anxiously staying outside. Let's go, I'm so unlucky. I thought I could do more business here." Pauper? Li Chang was deeply stimulated by this word. He looked at the back of the 2 women twisting their slender waists as they left and waved his fists. He also liked beautiful women, but he had his own bottom line. It was enough for him to fall in love once in his life, find a woman, get married, and live a stable life. Looking for a woman? Spending money to visit a prostitute? If he had the money, he might as well buy some delicious food and drinks for his wife at home. He might as well buy a few more boxes of medicine for his wife. Creak! The opposite door was opened again and Boss Huang appeared in front of Li Chang. With a gloomy expression and a newly lit cigarette between his fingers, he said, "Come in." Li Chang looked happy and hurriedly entered the room. After closing the door from the inside, he looked at the discarded toilet paper on the floor and felt a bit disgusted. "Help me clean up the room." Boss Huang turned around and walked into the bathroom. Soon after, the sound of running water came from inside. Li Chang raised his fist at the closed bathroom door and quickly picked up the toilet paper on the floor and threw it into the trash can. He then cleaned the room and even made the bed. Afterward, he went to the corner and sat down, waiting for Boss Huang to come out. Half an hour later, Boss Huang came out of the bathroom with a bath towel wrapped around his waist. He looked at the situation in the room and nodded with satisfaction, "Not bad. It's clean and tidy." Li Chang got up and said with an obsequious smile, "It's my honor to serve you, Boss Huang. I can't wait to help you clean the place every day these days." Boss Huang chuckled and said, "You're really eloquent. I called you here not to give you any business, but to talk about something else." Li Chang's expression slightly changed, but he still replied politely, "Please do, Boss Huang." Boss Huang walked to the sofa and took a seat. He shot a deep look at Li Chang and said, "You know my situation. I'm in the machinery business. Are you interested in working for my company?" Li Chang was caught off guard by Boss Huang's words. After hesitating for a while, he let out a dry smile and said, "It's my honor to be chosen by you, Boss Huang. But I have my own difficulties and can't leave my current company for the time being." Boss Huang raised his brows and asked, "Is it because of your company's contract?" Li Chang shook his head and said, "No, it's because I'm short of money and I need it urgently. There was only half a month left until the next month's salary and commission. If I don't get that money, I won't be able to take my wife to the surgery." Boss Huang was surprised. "You want to take your wife to the surgery? What happened to her? Li Chang said bitterly, heart disease. Boss Huang went silent for a while. He lit up another cigarette and took a few puffs before he asked, how much more do you need? Li Chang said, 90,000. Boss Huang widened his eyes and said in disbelief, your monthly income is around 90,000 yuan? Li Chang said with a helpless expression, if I can get this business done with you, 90,000 yuan won't be a problem. But if we can't take down your order, I'm afraid we'll fall short. Boss Huang gave him a thumbs up and praised, it's true that talented people will emerge in every generation, and each of them will lead the way for hundreds of years. It was amazing that a small salesperson could get such a high income in a month. I'm starting to think that you're a talent. Of course, I've also begun to pay attention to your company. Even a salesperson can make so much money, so your company's business must be very good. Boss Huang, I'll be frank with you, said Li Chang with a straight face. 1/3 of my company's business is all done by me. 1/3. How many salespeople does your company have? Asked Boss Huang curiously. More than 20, answered Li Chang. Boss Huang was shaken inwardly. He looked at Li Chang incredulously and said, more than 20 salespeople, yet you can get 1/3 of the business? Amazing. That's really amazing. How about this? I'll give you a base salary of 10,000 yuan every month, plus commission and year-end bonus. As for the 90,000 yuan you need, I can pay you in advance. How about it? Li Chang frowned and said, Boss Huang, I can get 90,000 yuan as long as I get this order from you. What if I don't give you this order? Boss Huang shook his head. Then I'm afraid you can only wait until next month, said Li Chang. Boss Huang casually threw the cigarette to Li Chang and lightly said, let's change the method. I can give you 500,000 yuan in advance for an annual salary of 1 million yuan. Of course, I can terminate the contract at any time if your business doesn't reach my satisfaction. You can forget about getting the remaining 500,000 yuan. How about it? He looked at Boss Huang and asked, I want to know why you value me so much? You probably don't know much about me, do you? Besides, you haven't gotten any proof of what I just said. Just because you can block me every day and persist for 9 days in a row, said Boss Huang. I like your resilience, said Boss Huang. Chapter 874. The morning sun shone on the earth, shining through the gap of the French window and onto the big Simmons bed. Last night's craziness caused a problem in Tan Xiu's usually fixed biological clock. He woke up at 10 a.m. and was aroused by the smell of food. It smells so good. Tan Xiu propped up his arms and sat up. He looked at the small round table in the room, which was filled with all kinds of delicacies. Shuiyu had changed her clothes, but it was still a long white dress with long black and soft hair draped over her shoulders. Today, she even wore a necklace and earrings, as well as a platinum bracelet on her wrist, making her look even more beautiful and alluring. Shuiyu smiled and said, You're awake? The waiter just delivered the food and I went out to buy you some toiletries. Quickly wash up and let's have dinner together. We've been tossing and turning for most of the night last night. I'm so tired that I don't even want to move now. How come you don't look tired at all? On the contrary. Shuiyu's pretty face blushed and she coquettishly said, What nonsense are you talking about? Hurry up and wash up. Tan Xiu burst into laughter. He lifted the thin quilt and got off the bed, quickly entering the bathroom. There was a saying from the ancients that there were only exhausted cows, but no land that was badly plowed. Tang Xiu had experienced it many times and could be said to have thoroughly understood the meaning behind this sentence. After washing up, Tan Xiu sat down and ate a few mouthfuls of food. Then he asked, When will the two you mentioned arrive? They should be tonight, answered Shuiyu. What's your plan today since they will arrive tonight? Tan Xiu nodded. I've arranged the business before you came, so they will continue their work. Shuiyu chuckled. So, I have nothing else to do today, so I'll go wherever you say. Tan Xiu thought for a while and said, If so, then let's steal some leisure time and stroll around Chang City. To be honest, this is my first time coming to Chang City. All right. Shuiyu didn't like shopping, but that was because she didn't have Tan Xiu to accompany her. Now that she heard Tan Xiu's suggestion, she suddenly felt a bit excited inside. After dinner, as soon as the two of them left the hotel, they saw the young man they met in the elevator yesterday. The other party obviously also saw Tan Xiao and Shuiyu. He looked at Shuiyu with some amazement and immediately gave Tan Xiao a contemptuous look. This brat. Tan Xiao could not help but shake his head with a smile. He lied to you yesterday. He's not called Wu Kuan at all. His real name is Li Chang, said Shuiyu in a low voice. Tan Xiao stared blankly for a moment and then rolled his eyes. He was at a loss whether to cry or laugh as he said, "This guy is really a weirdo. He can even lie about his name. Forget it, ignore him, let's go out for a stroll. Is the Bai Square nearby?" "It's indeed the Bai Square," said Shuiyu with a chuckle. "There's also Qingshan Road and a pedestrian street nearby. You have to be careful of your wallet today." "No problem, I have money." After Tan Xiao said this, he realized that Li Chang and a fat middle-aged man were approaching. Sure enough, just as his voice faded away, he heard Li Chang's mocking and ridiculing voice. "Women are all devils who spend money. Don't brag so much now. It'll be shameful if you don't have enough money to pay the bill." Tan Xiao raised his middle finger and loudly said, "I'll take your words as envy and jealousy, so I won't stoop to your level. Anyways, let's go shopping, baby." Shuiyu smiled and held Tan Xiao's arm as they left under Li Chang's rolling eyes. Boss Huang stared blankly at Shuiyu's back as she left. Only after Tan Xiao and Shuiyu had gone far away did he sober up from the amazement. He hurriedly looked at Li Chang and asked, "Do you know them, little Li?" "No, I don't." Li Chang shook his head. Boss Huang furrowed his brows and grumbled with dissatisfaction, "You obviously had some communication just now. How come you don't know them?" Li Chang was a smooth talker. From the way Boss Huang looked at Shuiyu, he understood why the latter wanted to inquire about their identities. He immediately let out a hollow laugh and said, "I really don't know them, boss. I just met them in the elevator yesterday. That brat said he would give that woman 1 billion yuan, so I laughed at him a few times. Never did I expect that I would meet them here again today." Boss Huang rolled his eyes and said in a low voice, "Little Li, since you promised to work for me, then I'll give you a test. If you can help me get that woman's contact information, I can directly make you the deputy manager of the company's sales department. How about it?" "What a pervert!" Li Chang cursed inwardly, yet he still put on an obsequious smile and said, "Don't worry, boss. I guarantee that I'll complete the task. Anyways, let's go to my company first to discuss the cooperation. After all, I'm going to be your man. I've also lowered the previous company's discount price to the lowest, which will save you a lot of money. Go get that woman's contact information first." Boss Huang shook his head. "Hurry up, I'll be waiting for you at the hotel." "This?" Li Chang hesitated for a moment before he reluctantly nodded and quickly chased after Tan Xiao and Shuiyu. At dusk, Tan Xiao and Shuiyu walked out of Fortune Square with a lot of things in their hands. Not counting the many things they put into their interspatial rings while no one was paying attention to them in the mall. "Tan Xiao, that man is still secretly following us," Shuiyu whispered while standing on the street. A smile appeared on the corner of Tan Xiao's mouth as he said, "Let's follow him. As long as he's not tired, we'll just take it as walking a dog." "That's right, are you tired? I already told Aohu to come here." "Let's go back by car. Didn't you come here by plane?" Shuiyu was surprised. "Where did the car come from?" Tan Xiao chuckled and said, "Aohu and the others will get a few cars every time we go to a city. We don't need to take a plane to Kana's this time. We'll drive there directly and consider it as a self-driving trip." Alright. It was rare for Shuiyu to get along with Tan Xiao for a long time, so she immediately agreed happily. Tens of meters away, Li Chang frowned as he looked at the backs of Tan Xiao and Shuiyu. His whole heart was shrouded with confusion. He now realized that the young man was indeed a rich man. After following them for a day, he silently calculated that they had spent over $1 million. But the problem was that they had bought a lot of things. But apart from those big and small bags, where did the rest of the things go? Could it be that they had just bought them and then threw them away? Just as he was confused, he clearly saw a domineering black Mercedes-Benz SUV stop in front of the man and woman. Immediately after, The man and woman got into the car and swaggered away. A luxury car? Li Chang's eyes were vicious. After recognizing the Mercedes-Benz G-Class AMG worth millions of yuan, a dull look appeared on his face. Those who could afford such a luxury car were all rich men. Could it be that this brat was really rich? Could it be that the 1 billion yuan he said in the elevator yesterday was true? Li Chang gulped down a mouthful of saliva and immediately shook his head to dispel the thought from his mind. Even if the other party was rich, he was too young. Perhaps his family was rich, but it was absolutely impossible for them to take out 1 billion yuan. After all, spending 1 billion yuan to please a woman was something that even the richest man's son, young Master Wang, couldn't do. Shit, I'm going to lose them. Li Chang suddenly realized that the other party had already left in the car, while he was still standing here in a daze. However, he quickly found that the car in front was not fast at all. Its speed was not much faster than an ordinary person's jogging. Chase them. Almost without hesitation, he chased the car in front. Inside the Mercedes-Benz SUV, Shui Yu glanced at the back and immediately said with a smile, "Tan Xiu, I just found out that you're actually so bad. The other party has really caught up with us, but he's relying on his legs to run. I'm afraid he'll be so tired that his legs will cramp when we arrive at the restaurant. He's following us, so I naturally have to cooperate with him," said Tan Xiu with a faint smile. "Else, how can I be worthy of his hard work today? Oh, pay attention to that brat behind us. We don't need to drive slowly if he gets a taxi." "There are very few taxis on this street, boss," said Ao with a strange expression. "Besides, it's rush hour now, so I'm afraid it won't be easy to get one." "It's because it won't be easy, that's why I told you to drive slowly and keep him hanging like this," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "Get him here when we arrive at the place. I want to ask him what's his purpose in following us all day." A few kilometers later, Li Chang, who was sweating profusely and tired to the point that his legs were almost like lead, finally managed to intercept a taxi after looking forward to the stars and the moon. After he got in, he pointed to the Mercedes-Benz G-Class AMG in front and shouted, "Master, help me, catch up with that Mercedes-Benz in front." The taxi driver hesitated. Li Chang gasped for a few breaths and said aloud, "I'll pay you. Is 500 yuan enough? I'll add more if it's not enough." It's enough. The taxi driver hurriedly nodded and sped up. However, a minute later, Li Chang suddenly found that the speed of the car in front was also increasing by a lot, almost reaching the critical point of the street speed limit. At this moment, he was smart enough to finally realize that the other party was deliberately making him chase. He was playing with him. Bastard! Li Chang clenched his fists and angrily cursed. The taxi driver was stunned. An angry look appeared on his face as he turned to glare at Li Chang and said, "Little brother, what's the matter with you? I've already sped up. Why the hell are you cursing me?" Li Chang's expression turned stiff. He immediately suppressed his anger and helplessly said, "I'm not cursing you, master. I'm cursing the people in the Mercedes-Benz in front." "The bastard? Forget it. Please help me follow them and see where they are going." The taxi driver's anger dissipated after hearing it. He looked at Li Chang with some sympathy and said, "Little brother, did your girlfriend get abducted by the rich man in the car in front? Alas, women these days. They're too damn realistic. I advise you to give up this materialistic woman as soon as possible, else you'll be cuckolded even if you get married in the future." Chapter 875. Li Chang, who was already full of grievances, nearly spurted out a mouthful of blood upon hearing the taxi driver's words. He could no longer suppress his anger and exasperatedly shouted, "Will you die if you shut up and don't talk? You don't even know what's going on, yet you're talking nonsense here." The taxi driver didn't get angry. Instead, he shook his head sympathetically and sighed, all right, I won't talk. It's human nature to be angry when encountering this kind of thing. I've earned your money, so it's fine for you to vent your anger. I won't talk anymore." Li Chang furiously glared at the taxi driver and then furiously looked at the Mercedes-Benz SUV in front. He wished he could cut that pretentious bastard into pieces. Bowen Restaurant. The restaurant looked very ordinary from the outside. It was a 3-story building with a classical style and a lot of red lanterns. Under the golden signboard, 4 waitresses in red cheongsams stood on both sides, while several security guards strolled around. Welcome. After Tan Xiu took Shui Yu's hand and got out of the Mercedes-Benz, the waitresses respectfully bowed and greeted them. A woman in her 40s, who was still attractive, hurriedly ran out from the inside. After seeing Tan Xiu and Shui Yu, she hesitated for a moment before her eyes fell on Shui Yu and asked, "Are you Miss Shui?" "That's me." Shui Yu nodded. The woman hurriedly took out 2 name cards and handed them to Shui Yu and Tan Xiu, saying, "Welcome, both of you. I'm the manager of this restaurant. You can call me Manager Hu." Elder Chang and Elder Bao have arrived and are waiting in the VIP lounge. "Do you know Chang Pinggui and Bao Anil?" Shui Yu was surprised. "They are our restaurant's distinguished guests. They come to Chang City every 2 years and solve their food problems here," said Manager Hu. "Also, my husband is Elder Chang's disciple." "Your husband is also an herb gatherer?" Shui Yu was surprised. Manager Hu's expression slightly changed and became more respectful. She nodded and said, "Yes, my husband is indeed an herb gatherer." "Lead the way then." Shui Yu nodded. Quickly, under the guidance of Manager Hu, Tan Xiu and Shui Yu arrived at the VIP lounge on the 3rd floor. To their surprise, there were a few other people in the VIP lounge other than the 2 old men. One of them was a skinny middle-aged man who stood obediently behind the 2 old men. The other 2 were an old lady with a head full of white hair and a handsome young man. The handsome young man exclaimed in surprise when he saw Tan Xiu and Shui Yu coming in. However, his expression turned a bit unsightly as he strode towards Tan Xiu and Shui Yu. With an overbearing manner, he looked at Shui Yu and asked loudly, "Who is he, Shui Yu?" Tan Xiu shot a strange look at Shui Yu and smilingly asked, "Do you know him?" Shui Yu just glanced at the handsome young man and lightly said, "I know, but I'm not familiar with him." The handsome young man's face turned dark and he angrily said, "I've been pursuing you for a while, Shui Yu. How can you say that we're not familiar? Boy, who are you?" "Let go of Shui Yu, else don't blame me for being impolite." Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, "I see. You should be one of Shui Yu's pursuers, right? It's no wonder, though. This woman of mine is as beautiful as a fairy, so the number of men pursuing her is as many as the carps crossing the river. All right, don't threaten me like a child. Even if you shout yourself hoarse, it won't change the fact that she's my woman." Shui Yu seemed to be very happy that Tan Xiu admitted that she was his woman in front of others. A smile appeared on her beautiful face as she softly said, "He's right. He's my only man. So, Mr. Liu, please conduct yourself with dignity and don't pester me anymore." The handsome young man looked at Shui Yu and Tan Xiu with disbelief. Just as he was about to speak loudly, the white-haired old lady shouted in a deep voice, "Little Meng, come back." The handsome young man opened his mouth, but he seemed to be afraid of the white-haired old lady. He angrily glared at Tan Xiu before he turned around and walked to the white-haired old lady's side and sat down. Shui Yu and Tan Xiu came to the front of them and watched the 2 old men get up from the sofa. Then he lightly smiled and said, "You 2 must be the herb gatherer, Elder Chang, and the dragon-seeking master, Bao Anil, right? I'm Shui Yu, and this is my man, Tan Xiu." Chang Pinggui and Bao Anil exchanged glances and immediately nodded to Shui Yu in a friendly manner. Their eyes then landed on Tan Xiu. "Little brother Tang, you look a bit familiar, no? Have we met somewhere before?" Chang Pinggui curiously asked. "Fortunately, Elder Chang, you're not a woman," Tan Xiu said with a smile. "Else, I would have thought that I'm too handsome, so some girls are finding excuses to hit on me. I'm sure this is the first time we've met. Also, let me introduce myself. I'm Tan Xiu from the Magnificent Tang Corporation." "The Magnificent Tang Corporation?" Chang Pinggui stared blankly for a moment. His eyes suddenly turned saucer with disbelief. Even his body trembled a few times as he said with a trembling voice, "You're the famous young divine Dr. Tan Xiu in the Chinese medicine circle? The Magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss? I never thought that Elder Chang would have heard of me. This junior is truly honored," Tan Xiu said with a smile. Upon hearing Tan Xiu's acknowledgement, Chang Pinggui immediately rubbed his hands excitedly and said, "You're flattering me. It's my honor to be able to meet Tang, Divine Dr. Tang." There was no one in the country who didn't know about the famous young divine doctor, Tang Xiu. "We herb gatherers are the ones who want to know you the most, Divine Dr. Tang. We hope that we can collect precious herbs and use you to cure illnesses and save lives." Bao Anil also looked surprised. He looked at Tan Xiu and said, "I've also heard of the young divine Dr. Tan Xiu's great name. It's really better to see it once than to hear it 100 times. You're really a young talent and amazing. It's no wonder that the venerable successor has fallen in love with you." "Are you talking about the old blind, Elder Bao?" Tan Xiu said with a smile. Bao Anil stared blankly for a moment before the surprise on his face disappeared and was replaced with a bit of anger. He frowned and said, "I hope you can show some respect to the venerable, Tan Xiu. Besides, since the venerable's descendant is your woman, it stands to reason that you should also address her as the venerable ancestor." "Please don't say that, Elder Bao," said Shuiyu hurriedly. "Even if the venerable ancestor personally came before Tan Xiu, she doesn't want Tan Xiu to address her as such. As a matter of fact, it was the venerable ancestor's request for Tan Xiu to address her as old blind." Tan Xiu patted Shuiyu's shoulder and smilingly said, "You're right, Elder Bao. I should indeed address the old blind as the venerable ancestor according to our relationship. Please forgive me, Elder Bao. I used to address her as old blind and forgot to change it." "The venerable ancestor requested it?" asked Bao Anil, dumbfounded. How is that possible?" Tan Xiu smiled and didn't explain further. Instead, he looked at the white-haired old lady sitting on the sofa and asked with a smile, "Tan Xiu has seen Senior. How should I address you, Senior?" The white-haired old lady observed Tan Xiu and smilingly said, "You can call me Old Cripple." "Old Cripple?" Tan Xiu stared blankly for a moment. At this moment, he suddenly felt an aura like a breeze blowing over and instantly drilled into his mind. Nearly in a flash, his spiritual sense suddenly erupted and smashed into the invading spiritual sense. After driving it out of his mind with a crushing force, he continued to pursue it. "Stop, Divine Dr. Tang." The white-haired old lady's body shook violently and she hurriedly screamed before coughing up a few mouthfuls of blood. Tan Xiu retracted his spiritual sense and frowned as he coldly said, "Old Cripple, there should be no enmity between us, right? You actually dared to invade my sea of consciousness with your spiritual sense? That's a capital crime." "Death your sister." The handsome young man suddenly jumped up, but a shadow flashed in front of him. A loud slap was heard as his body flew upside down and heavily smashed into the corner 7 meters away. Tan Xiu returned to his original spot and indifferently said, "Be careful with your words." The white-haired old lady stared at Tan Xiu in disbelief. She tremblingly got up and limped a few steps toward Tan Xiu. Then, she respectfully said, "This old cripple has no intention to offend you. I just felt that someone who can make that old blind appreciate must be extraordinary, so I rashly probed you. I hope Divine Dr. Tang won't blame me for it." Tan Xiu coldly snorted and said, "If I hadn't found that you didn't have any malice, I'm afraid your body and soul would have perished by now. Remember, don't easily probe others in the future, else no one can guarantee that the other party will be as soft-hearted as me." "Understood. This old cripple will bear that in mind." The white-haired old lady hurriedly nodded and replied with a look of panic on her face. The unforeseen event in front of them made Chang Pinggui and Bao Anil dumbfounded with shock written all over their faces. Even the middle-aged man behind them was directly dumbfounded. Could it be that he's a cultivator? Chang Pinggui and Bao Anil exchanged glances with monstrous waves surging inside their hearts. Tan Xiu didn't want to get entangled with the white-haired old lady and indifferently said, "Take care of your junior. Don't blame me for turning hostile if he dares to talk nonsense again." "Don't worry. I guarantee that he won't say another word," said the white-haired old lady hurriedly. "Grandma." The handsome young man crawled up from the corner with difficulty and shouted while covering his face. "Shut up, else I'll cripple you and expel you from the family." shouted the white-haired old lady angrily. The handsome young man's breathing stagnated and he immediately looked frightened. However, there was a bit of resentment in his eyes when he looked at Tan Xiu. Bim! The VIP lounge's door was slammed open and Li Chang rushed in from the outside with a furious face. He glared at Tan Xiu and shouted, "You bastard! You deliberately played me!" Upon seeing Li Chang, Tan Xiu immediately looked interested. He walked to the sofa and sat down. He then crossed his legs and smilingly said, "Please take a seat first, everyone." After saying that, he then looked at Li Chang and smilingly asked, "Tell me, how did I play you? Let's make it clear. Don't blame me for tidying you up if you can't tell me the truth." "You deliberately let the car." As the words came out, Li Chang was dumbfounded and froze on the spot like a fossil. Chapter 876. Li Chang was so angry that he hurriedly caught up with him. He didn't even think about it and slammed the door open to accuse Tan Xiu. But now, after Tan Xiu's question, his anger was swirling in his belly and he couldn't vent it out. What should he say? Could it be that he was stalking her? He was flustered. That's right. Li Chang's face was flushed and he wished he could find a place to bury himself. Standing stiffly on the spot for a while, he coughed twice under everyone's strange eyes. He braced himself and said, "I have something to look for you." "No, I have something to look for her." "Don't worry," said Tan Xiu casually. "You can talk about it later. Let's talk about how I played you first, shall we?" Li Chang felt awkward inside. A sense of powerlessness arose inside his heart when he saw Tan Xiu latching on to the matter of playing tricks on him. However, he was still smart and said with a dry smile, "Don't lower yourself to my level, tyrant. The reason why I said that to you was to find a reason for myself to come in. I'm looking for this, your woman. I really have something to discuss." Tan Xiu waved his hand and smilingly said, "This reason may be far-fetched, but I can reluctantly accept it." "Say it. Why are you looking for you? Don't tell me you want to pursue her. Else, I don't mind beating someone up and making you kneel and vomit blood." "Someone?" Li Chang stared blankly for a moment. He then saw a handsome young man with a red and swollen face and bloodstains on the corner of his mouth. His heart suddenly quivered. He had seen the character of a playboy. Many of the second generations of rich and officials all had this kind of common problem. He was just doing it for the sake of business. He didn't want the business to fail and get beaten up. Brother, if I remember correctly, you're called Tan Xiu, right? Tang of the magnificent Tang Corporation? Xiu as in self-cultivation, right? This name is really great. At first glance, I can tell that you're a cultured and handsome man. Actually, I'm looking for this, your woman, because I know someone covets her beauty and wants to do something bad to her. I'm actually doing this out of good intentions. I just want to inform you guys." The corners of Tan Xiu's mouth curled up as he asked with a smile, "Then can you tell me, who is it that is plotting against my woman?" Li Chang dryly smiled and said, "My new boss is also that old pervert who lives in the Chang City Hotel. You don't know this, but in order to make things difficult for me, he forced me to ask this, your woman, for her contact information. He even threatened me, saying that if I didn't get your woman's contact information, he wouldn't give me the order, let alone let me work at his company. Actually, I agreed to work at his company mainly as a stopgap measure, so that I could sign the business contract first and then get him to scram as far away as possible." Tan Xiu smiled and asked, "Do you think I will let my woman give you her contact?" Li Chang shook his head and said, "Under normal circumstances, absolutely not." "Then tell me about the abnormal circumstances," Tan Xiu said with a smile. Li Chang's eyes lit up. He quickly organized his words inwardly and said, "The first time I saw you, I knew that you're a good-looking and kind-hearted local tycoon. I said that you were acting cool before, but it was because I was jealous inside. Brother Tang, you and sister-in-law are not locals, right? How about you help me? Let's just pretend and casually say a few words. After I sign the contract and get the high commission, I'll be the host and treat you and sister-in-law to a big meal. I can even be your tour guide to stroll around Chang City, enjoying the good mountains, rivers, and scenery, as well as feeling the good people, good deeds, and good customs here." Shui Yu couldn't help but burst into laughter. She smiled and touched Tan Xiu's arm, saying, "I think I can help." Tan Xiu nodded with a smile and said, "You're quite eloquent and smart. It should be the 9th time if he changes jobs, right?" "It should be the 9th time if he really wants to go to a new company," said Shuiyu with a smile. "You're Li Chang, right?" Tan Xiu said with satisfaction. "It's not like I can't help you, but I have a condition. If you can promise me, we'll go back to the hotel together later." "What condition do you have, brother?" asked Li Chang cautiously. "Agree to work for the other party's company," Tan Xiu said with a smile. "Sign the contract and I'll give you 2 months to swindle this company for me. Afterward, pack up and come to me. You'll work for me later." "What?" Li Chang was dumbfounded. Countless thoughts were swirling in his mind just now. He didn't expect that Tan Xiu would put forward such an absurd request. "What's wrong?" Tan Xiu said with a playful smile. "You don't agree?" Li Chang probed. "Brother, serving you and working for you is just a trifling matter. It's just that I don't get it. Why do you want me to change jobs to a new company? And you want to swindle the other party? Is it because the other party has ideas about sister-in-law and you're angry?" "There are many men in the world who have ideas about my woman," Tan Xiu said with a smile. "I'm afraid I would have died of exhaustion if I had to deal with each and every one of them. You don't need to know the reason. There are only 2 paths in front of you now: agree or refuse." Li Chang hesitated for a while and asked, "What business do you do, brother?" "The Magnificent Tang Corporation," Tan Xiu said with a smile. "The Magnificent Tang Corporation?" Li Chang was dumbfounded. He had just mentioned this company. Could it be that the other party remembered what he just said? Was he joking with him? Tan Xiu seemed to have seen through Li Chang's mind and said with a smile, "Don't let your imagination run wild. I promise I'm not playing with you this time. I'm Tan Xiu, the owner of the Magnificent Tang Corporation. If you agree and can swindle the new company miserably in 2 months, then I welcome you to join my company." Li Chang quickly grabbed his mobile and searched the name, Tan Xiu, on the internet. Soon he found countless news reports about Tan Xiu, as well as Tan Xiu's photos. Heavens! It's really him? Li Chang gulped down his saliva and looked up with a dumbfounded expression. It took him a long time to suppress the shock and said with a bit of flattery, "Tang? Brother, you're such a big shot, yet you're actually interested in an ordinary small fry like me?" "It's my business whether I like you or not," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "Whether you agree or not, it's your business. All right, I've said what I need to say, so it's your turn now. However, you need to remember one thing. If you promise me today and go back on your words, I'm afraid you'll end up very miserably. It'll be so miserably that you can't even imagine it." Li Chang hesitated. He originally planned to collect enough money to do a small business after his wife's operation and strive to expand his business and become a boss in the future. But it was the Magnificent Tang Corporation. Not only was it the company with the fastest development in the business world, but it also had a huge space for breakthroughs in the future. He even dared to pat his chest and guarantee that if Tan Xiu wanted to, the Magnificent Tang Corporation would go out of the country and expand its business all over the world. It would definitely become one of the world's top 500 companies in the future. It wouldn't be a problem for it to become one of the world's top 100 companies. Li Chang eagerly looked at Tan Xiu and asked, "Brother Tang, what arrangement will you have for me if I join the Magnificent Tang Corporation?" "You'll start from the bottom first," said Tan Xiu with a smile. Li Chang's heart sank. "You'll be the deputy sales manager of the Magnificent Tang Corporation first," continued Tan Xiu. "Perhaps you'll have the opportunity to be the general sales manager of all the products of the Magnificent Tang Corporation when your qualifications and abilities are higher." "I agree." Li Chang's heart was stirred up again as he replied with a resolute and decisive tone. Tan Xiu nodded with satisfaction and waved his hand. "Go to the side and wait. We still have something to deal with here. Shuiyu, I'll leave this place to you." Shuiyu let out a faint smile and looked at Chang Pinggui and Bao Anil, who had a strange expression on their faces. She then said with a smile, "Elder Chang, Elder Bao, I'm sure both of you are aware of the reason why I invited you here. As the things I do get bigger and bigger, I need more and more people with abilities. One of you is a famous herb gatherer in the Chinese medicine field, while the other is a famous dragon-seeking master in the feng shui field. If you can promise to help me, I'll give you any conditions you want. The main reason why Chang Pingwei and Bao Anil came to Chang City this time was to see the descendants of the legendary celestial immortal. They also wanted to get a chance to see that celestial immortal. They were, after all, old people and didn't need many things. Money, power, and beauty were not attractive to them at all. Therefore, they didn't come here to work for Shuiyu at all. Upon seeing their expressions, Tan Xiu realized that they didn't want to agree. After giving it a thought, he said, "If you two agree, then I'll give you a good fortune." Chang Pingwei and Bao Anil exchanged glances. Then, Bao Anil immediately asked, "What good fortune?" Tan Xiu pointed to the white-haired old lady and said, "The good fortune I'll give you is definitely not lower than her achievements. As for the higher level, you'll need to work hard on your own." Bao Anil's body shook and he hurriedly asked, "You mean?" Tan Xiu raised his hand to interrupt him and lightly said, "It's best if you understand and don't say it out loud." Chang Pingwei and Bao Anil were ecstatic. They had guessed Tan Xiu's identity from the invisible exchange between Tan Xiu and the Lu family's ancestor, Yang Shi. They naturally didn't want to miss such an opportunity at this moment. Nearly at the same time, the two quickly nodded in agreement. Yang Shi stared at Chang Pingwei and Bao Anil in a daze, and envy filled her heart. Others might not be aware of how powerful Tan Xiu was, but she was perfectly aware of it. She had just used her spiritual sense to peep at Tan Xiu and felt Tan Xiu's powerful spiritual sense that suffocated her. Furthermore, Chang Pingwei and Bao Anil were now nearly 60 years old, yet Tan Xiu dared to guarantee that they would be stronger than her in the future. This showed that Tan Xiu was absolutely unfathomable. If he was able to obtain this opportunity, then he would be thinking up to their divine Dr. Tang. "If I also want to work for you, for your woman, do you think I can go to the next level?" asked Yang Shi hurriedly. Chapter 877. Tan Xiu looked at Yang Shi with a teasing expression. This old lady was at least 100 years old, yet she actually wanted to go a step further. It was indeed a rare thing. However, he didn't rush to refuse and instead lightly said, "If my guess is correct, you have a big family behind you, right? Give me 3 days. I'll be alone in 3 days without any worries," said Yang Shi immediately after hearing it. Tan Xiu fell into silence. Yang Shi's persistence and firmness touched his heart. When he was in the immortal world, he had encountered countless cultivators and immortals who abandoned their families and businesses for the sake of cultivation and becoming stronger. The great Tao was ruthless. Each and every one of the supremes who could overcome all obstacles and reach the top of the immortal world had to contend with people and the heavens to finally stand above hundreds of millions of races. Tan Xiu looked at Shuiyu and asked, "Will you accept it or not?" Shuiyu didn't immediately answer Tan Xiu's question, but looked at Yang Shi and asked, "Can you tell me what you know?" "I know Chinese medicine, and I have no problem with medicinal herbs. I also know feng shui and am very good at finding dragon acupoints. I also have a deep understanding of antiques and antiques. As for other aspects, I know a lot of things. I even have a superficial understanding of your heavenly mystery clan's divination technique." "Do you know my ancestor?" asked Shuiyu. "You should have heard of China's 4 imperfections: old blind, old cripple, old deaf, and old mute." Yang Shi nodded. "Your ancestor is called Old Blind, and I'm Old Cripple." Shuiyu's spirit was shaken, but then she forced a smile and said, "Senior, you and my ancestor are of the same generation." "How could I dare?" Yang Shi interrupted Shuiyu and seriously said, "I finally understand why that Old Blind has an intersection with divine Dr. Tang. Moreover, it's because of you that they have such a deep relationship." She played her cards well, but it's a pity that I don't have an outstanding descendant like you. The great Tao is ruthless, and it's all about competition. As long as I can fight for the present opportunity, I can go further and fly higher in the future. Shuiyu did not speak again. Instead, she turned to Tan Xiu and nodded. Tan Xiu said with a smile, "If that's the case, then you can help Elder Chang and Elder Bao take care of Shuiyu's business first. If you can really cut off your worldly worries and make some achievements, No matter how great Old Blind's achievements are in the future, you won't be any worse than her. Good, good, good. Madame Yang's aged face was filled with excitement as she said, good, 3 times in a row. The handsome young man, Lu Meng, had a shocked expression on his face. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that his grandmother would lower herself to work for someone else. One should know that his grandmother was known as the ancestor of the Lu family. Her status in the family was absolutely the highest. Even his father, the Lu family head, was exceptionally obedient in front of his grandmother. It could be said, Grandmother Yang was the pillar of the Lu family. If she left the Lu family, the entire family would lose its backbone. Grandma, think twice. Lu Meng dashed to the front of the sofa with a pleading look in his eyes. Madame Yang looked at Lu Meng dotingly and shook her head. I've been married to the Lu family for 80 years. All these years, the Lu family has many children and grandchildren. I've been in control of the Lu family for 60 years and brought the small family to become the first family in the entire Chang City. I've done everything I can, and the Lu family will need to rely on the descendants in the future. It's time for me to pursue my dream and walk the path that belongs to me. Grandma. Lu Meng's heart sank to the bottom of the valley. Madame Yang shook her head and got up. She then looked at Tan Xiao and Shui Yu and said, Divine Dr. Tang, Boss Shui, I'm going to deal with the Lu family's affairs first. I'll find little Chang and little Bao within 3 days. Alright. Tan Xiao, Shui Yu, and the others got up and watched Madame Yang and Lu Meng leave. Tan Xiao then looked at Chang Pingui and Bao Anil and said, I won't be accompanying you for dinner. I'm afraid Shui Yu has something to tell you, so let her accompany you. Alright. Chang Pingui and Bao Anil nodded with a smile. A few minutes later, Tan Xiao left the restaurant with Li Chang. After coming to the street outside, he didn't call Mo Ao to pick him up. Instead, he took out a cigarette and lit it up. Then he threw the rest to Li Chang and said, Since you're a local, why don't you take me for a stroll? I want to try the delicacies in Chang City. Li Chang rolled his eyes and said in a low voice, I know a very good Agricola, Brother Tang. The game there is absolutely delicious. But the price is very expensive. Is it far from here? Tan Xiao asked with a smile. It'll take more than half an hour to drive there, answered Li Chang. After smoking the cigarette, Tan Xiao called Mo Ao to drive the car over and said, Li Chang, give all the directions to the Agricola you mentioned. Green Lake Agricola. The lakeside was surrounded by green hills, with antique red lanterns hanging high. The antique buildings made the night here very beautiful. Many guests were walking in the long corridor, while waiters carrying trays shuttled back and forth between the rooms, leaving behind a tempting aroma of food. Strange. The Mercedes-Benz SUV was parked in the parking lot of Green Lake Agricola. Just as Tan Xiao stepped out of the car, a bit of surprise could be seen in his eyes. He faintly felt that there was something wrong with the environment here. This seemingly beautiful place seemed to be hiding a hidden killing intent. What's strange, cousin brother? Asked Li Chang, confused. It's nothing. Lead the way. Tan Xiao retracted his gaze from the distance and shook his head. Suppressing his confusion, Li Chang took Tan Xiao and walked more than 10 meters away. Then he suddenly asked, Cousin brother, does that big brother who's driving not eat? They can solve the problem of eating and drinking by themselves, said Tan Xiao with a faint smile. Them? Li Chang stared blankly and keenly caught the word. In a flash, his eyes shifted to the distance and found that another car was slowly approaching at this moment. Although he was not a big shot, he had heard that many bodyguards wouldn't appear at the side of their protectors and would hide nearby instead. The one in that car should be the bodyguard who followed them, right? Truly worthy of being the big boss of the magnificent Tang Corporation. Li Chang sighed inwardly and led Tan Xiao into the antique building. At the reception desk, with an awkward expression, Li Chang looked at the expressionless middle-aged woman in front of him and helplessly said, Manager Wang, can you think of a way? We've come here, so you should arrange a place for us to eat, no? We really can't. Manager Wang shook her head and said, except for 2 boxes that have been booked by others, all the other boxes are full. You can either wait here or find another place to eat. Li Chang turned to look at Tan Xiao and helplessly said, "Brother Tang, you see, you're Manager Wang, right?" Tan Xiao chuckled. "My family is also in the food and beverage business, so I'm very familiar with the situation of each restaurant. If my guess is correct, you should have reserved boxes here in case some big shots come and you don't have a place. You should have at least 2 of these reserved boxes, right?" A surprised look flashed in Manager Wang's eyes as she stared at Tan Xiao, as though wanting to see what made Tan Xiao different from others. "I just want to have a quiet dinner and taste the most famous Agricola delicacies in Chang City," said Tan Xiao again. "I hope you can give us a box. Of course, don't tell me that you don't have any. If I really insist on having a meal here, I have a way to ask your boss to come out and arrange it." Manager Wang's expression moved and asked, "How should I address you, sir?" "My surname is Tang," answered Tan Xiao. "You're right, Mr. Tang." Manager Wang nodded and said, "We do have 2 reserved boxes here, but I don't have the right to arrange the guests. Why don't you wait for a while? I'll report it to my boss." "Is it necessary?" asked Tan Xiao. "It's just a box. Our remaining 2 boxes are very special," said Manager Wang. "All right. Let's hope it's quick," said Tan Xiao. In a VIP lounge in the deepest part of Green Lake Agricola, the owner, Song Donglai, was accompanying 2 guests. These 2 were his life and death friends and were also very powerful figures in the country. "Old Ao, you called me before you came here. You said that you want to bring the Kruger python here and arrange the blood python array here. Is it true?" Song Donglai looked at the 2 men and asked with a solemn expression. Ao Wei, who looked to be in his 40s and exuded a calm aura, nodded and said, "That's right. We've actually brought the Kruger python here and put it in the lake outside. As long as you agree, we can arrange the blood python array tomorrow night." "The trucks carrying the jade will arrive early tomorrow morning," said Gong Quan. Song Donglai stroked his chin. His eyes flickered as he pondered. After a long while, he slowly said, "The Kruger python and the jade are not enough to arrange the blood python array. We also need 18 living people as blood sacrifices. Where are we going to find 18 living people?" "The 2 of us sent someone to spread the news before we came here," said Ao Wei in a deep voice. "The Lien family should have heard about it by now, so I'm afraid they've already sent their people here. In the past, us 3 brothers killed a lot of their people to prevent them from using the plague virus to harm others. All these years, the Liens have been tracking us and looking for us to take revenge. I don't think they'll let go of this opportunity." Song Donglai's spirit shook and he hurriedly said, "Our 3 families can indeed suppress the Liens if we join forces. But don't forget that you can't bring all the forces of your 2 families here. I was also punished by my family for what happened in the past, so the power I have now is only the men I've trained over the years. How are we going to stop the Liens if they launch a large-scale attack?" "I've considered this issue, so I invited a friend," said Ao Wei. "Our odds of winning will be greatly increased as long as he can arrive in time tomorrow." "Who is it?" asked Song Donglai hurriedly. "Han Sen," answered Ao Wei. "The traitor of the Han family?" exclaimed Song Donglai. "A lunatic who suffered a cultivation deviation? Did you eat a bear's heart or a leopard's gall? How dare you invite him?" Chapter 878. Ao Wei seemed to have guessed that Song Donglai would have such a reaction and solemnly said, "Han Sen is indeed a lunatic in the eyes of many, a traitor who betrayed his family. However, in my opinion, he was both good and evil, just that his personality was a bit more eccentric. If others don't provoke him, he won't take the initiative to provoke others." Song Donglai didn't let go of the prejudice in his heart just because of Ao Wei's explanation. He said in a deep voice, "Our blood python array plan is very important. Unless we have a life and death friendship, we must never let outsiders get involved in it. Moreover, we're facing a great enemy. If something happens to him, we'll die miserably." Ao Wei calmly said, "You and Gong Quan don't understand Hansen because you have never interacted with him. My relationship with him isn't shallow. We can be considered friends who have gone through life and death together. So I can guarantee that not only can he help us, but he can also become friends with the 2 of you." "Friends?" Gong Quan had heard about the relationship between Ao Wei and Han Sen many times, but it was the first time for Song Donglai to hear about it. Just thinking about that lunatic made his scalp tingle. After a while, Song Donglai reluctantly nodded and said, "Old Ao, since Han Sen is your friend, then I'll accompany you to gamble. If we lose, the three of US brothers will have to take a trip to the Yellow Springs. If we win the bet, we'll be able to become legendary existences." "I'll bet," Gong Quan shouted resolutely. Ao Wei looked at his two brothers with satisfaction. A heroic feeling rose in his heart as he loudly said, "Nothing is 100% certain. I'm also gambling. To be able to gamble with these two brothers, regardless of whether I win or lose, the process will be extremely exciting." "Ha!" the three of them roared with laughter. Amidst the laughter, the door was knocked. A bald middle-aged man in a black suit pushed the door and entered. He looked at the trio who were gradually losing their laughter. He quickly came to Song Donglai and respectfully said, "There's something I need to report to you, boss." "What is it?" asked Song Donglai with raised brows. The bald man said, "Two guests came to our Agricola. One of them requested to dine in our reserved box because the box is full." Song Donglai's expression shifted and he inquired, "Who are they? How did he know we had reserved a private room?" The bald man shook his head and said, "I only know that his surname is Tang. He's 21 or 22 years old, and his family seems to be running a restaurant business. I'm not sure about anything else." Song Donglai angrily said, "You don't even know the details of the other party, yet you came here to report this trivial matter? Are you out of your mind? Tell them that our reserved private rooms are all gone. Tell them to wait for other ordinary private rooms. If they don't want to wait, then they can scram." "Yes." The bald man answered immediately. Reception area. Manager Wang's expression turned gloomy after she received the message from the intercom. She looked at Tan Xiao and said, "I'm sorry. I just got a notice that the two private rooms we reserved are already occupied. Please wait for the other rooms. Of course, if you don't want to wait, you can go to other places to take a look." Tan Xiao frowned slightly. If he really couldn't eat here, it wouldn't matter to him. But after coming here, he felt that this place was a little special, so he was a little reluctant to leave now. After thinking for a moment, he took out his phone and dialed a number. "Old cripple, there's something I need your help with since you haven't completely separated from the Liu family. I think the Liu family should be able to solve it given their status in Chang City. What instructions do you have for me, Divine Dr. Tang?" asked Mrs. Zhang. "I'm in Green Lake Agricola now. Have you heard of this place?" asked Tan Xiao. "I need to eat here, but there are no ordinary private rooms left. Do you have any way to make the owner of this place give me a private room?" "Give me a few minutes, Divine Dr. Tang," said Mrs. Zhang without hesitation. Manager Wang, who stood in front of Tan Xiao, was surprised when she heard what Tan Xiao said on the phone. The Liu family in Chang City? She knew that the first family in Chang City was the Liu family. Could it be that this young man surnamed Tang knew someone from the Liu family in Chang City? If that was the case, the boss might really have to use the reserved VIP room. Li Chang gave a thumbs up and praised, "Networking is really a good thing, Brother Tang. You've just subdued an old cripple, yet you can use it now. I'm really impressed. Work hard for me after you complete my task," said Tan Xiao with a faint smile. "Maybe one day in the future, you can also be like me, accumulating connections everywhere." Li Chang rubbed his hands and grinned. As the saying goes, it's good to enjoy the shade under a big tree. You'll be my big backer in the future. Manager Wang was quite amused and couldn't help but burst into laughter after listening to the conversation between the two men. In the innermost private room of the Agricola, Song Donglai, Ao Wei, and Gong Quan had just drunk 2 glasses of wine and were about to talk about serious matters when their mobile phones rang. When he took out his mobile and saw the caller's number, his expression slightly changed. He gestured to Ao Wei and Gong Quan to keep quiet, and then picked up the phone and smilingly said, "It's been a long time since we last met, Patriarch Liu. But why did you suddenly think of calling me?" "I don't call you for no reason, Boss Song. It's like this. My Liu family has a very distinguished guest who wants to dine in your Green Lake Agricola. Can you arrange a private room for him? The voice of the Lu family's patriarch, Lu Pinxin, came out of the phone. Song Donglai stared blankly for a moment and then hurriedly said, "Since he's a distinguished guest of the Lu family, then he's also a distinguished guest of my Green Lake Agricola. I wonder when he will come? I'll go and greet him personally. His surname is Tang and he's already in your Green Lake Agricola." His surname is Tang? Song Donglai suddenly recalled the matter just reported by his subordinate. He immediately got up and said, "I think I know who he is, Patriarch Lu. Don't worry, I'll arrange it right away." "Thank you." He hung up the phone. With a strange expression, Song Donglai said, "It seems that a great figure has come to my place tonight. To be able to invite the patriarch of the Lu family, the #1 family in Chang City, to be his lobbyist, I'm afraid his background is really extraordinary." "Chang City's Lu family? That old cripple's family?" "That's right," answered Song Donglai with a solemn expression. Ao Wei nodded and said, "If that's the case, then go and arrange it. Chang City's Lu family is not ordinary, especially that old cripple, who has a deep friendship with the elders of many families in our occult sect." Song Donglai nodded without a word and quickly left the private room. Soon after, he appeared in front of Tan Xiu under the lead of the bald man. "Pardon my rudeness. This humble servant is Song Donglai, the owner of this Green Lake Agricola. I didn't know that Brother Tang would come and didn't welcome you. Also, I didn't know that Brother Tang is a distinguished guest of the Chang City's Lu family. I hope Brother Tang won't take offense if I neglected you," said Song Donglai politely. Tan Xiu casually glanced at him and indifferently said, "It's all right. Lead the way." Ugh. Song Donglai looked at Tan Xiu's expression and didn't say any more pleasantries. He could see the indifference on Tan Xiu's face and was a bit annoyed inside. However, he didn't want to bicker with Tan Xiu for the sake of the Lu family. He no longer spoke and directly led Tan Xiu and Li Chang to the VIP box. "Manager Wang, I'll leave the reception to you next." Having said that, Song Donglai cupped his fists toward Tan Xiu and Li Chang and then turned around to leave. Manager Wang, on the other hand, was secretly shocked after seeing Song Donglai's appearance. However, she was a slick person. How could she not see that Tan Xiu and her boss, Song Donglai, were unhappy? Naturally, she didn't dare to say anything. After suppressing her shock, she said, "The waiter will soon send the menu to you too. Please don't hesitate to ask if you need anything." "We got it. You can go back to your work," said Tan Xiu. Manager Wang nodded and quickly left the room. She was usually the one in charge of entertaining the guests in this VIP box. But the big boss was obviously unhappy today, so she couldn't flatter the two youngsters too much. Half an hour later, Tan Xiu and Li Chang ate to their heart's content. They felt that the wild game served in this Green Lake Agricola really tasted good. However, Tan Xiu was still concerned about the special situation of this place, so he didn't drink any wine. "I'll stroll around by myself later," Tan Xiu thought inwardly. However, just as the thought flashed through his mind, the VIP box's door was knocked. As the door was pushed open, Zhang Shi came in from the outside along with a 50 or 60-year-old old man. "Divine Dr. Tang, did I disturb you?" asked Zhang Shi as she came in with a walking stick. Tan Xiu's eyes swept over her face and then fell on the old man, asking, "It's all right. Who's this?" "Divine Dr. Tang, this is my son, Lu Pinxin, the current patriarch of the Lu family," said Zhang Shi quickly. "Pinxin, why are you still in a daze? Quickly greet Divine Dr. Tang." Lu Pinxin hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "Greetings, Divine Dr. Tang." Tan Xiu nodded in response. After pondering for a moment, he said, "Thank you for tonight's matter. Your mother may have promised me that she will leave the Lu family, but I'll give you a promise here. If your Lu family is in trouble in the future and even your mother can't solve it, you can look for me." Lu Pinxin's eyes lit up and he immediately looked excited. He had learned about Tan Xiu's situation from his mother and knew that Tan Xiu was an unfathomable cultivator. For such a powerful person to say such words to him, it meant that he had made a promise to the Lu family. It was absolutely a great thing for the Lu family. "Thank you, Divine Dr. Tang. Is there anything else you need here? Lu Pinxin said gratefully. I'll arrange it right away. No need. Tan Xiu shook his head. Lu Pinxin nodded and glanced at his mother. He then took half a step back and no longer spoke. Divine Dr. Tang, how about you let Pinxin accompany you while you're in Chang City? Zhang Shi couldn't help laughing and said, you can order me to do anything. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, forget it. In any case, he's the patriarch of the first family in Chang City. How can he follow me? All right, I appreciate your kindness. You can go back now. Chapter 879. In the innermost box of the Green Lake Agricola, Song Donglai, Ao Wei, and Gong Quan were discussing the arrangement of the blood python array, as well as how to arrange manpower to hunt and kill powerful enemies. They were well aware of what success or failure meant for the upcoming gamble. If they succeeded, they would be like a carp leaping over the dragon gate and soaring to the sky. If they failed, they would perish in the Yellow Springs. Just as the trio was discussing the details, the box's door was knocked again. The bald man pushed the door open and quickly came to Song Donglai, reporting in a low voice, Boss, the Lu family's patriarch, Lu Pinxin, and the crippled old lady are here. Manager Wang just reported to me that they went to see the young man surnamed Tang in the VIP box. What? Song Donglai's spirit was shaken and disbelief filled his eyes. He was perfectly aware of the Lu family's influence in Chang City. No one in the entire city dared to provoke the Lu family because it was a behemoth. Not to mention the Lu family's patriarch, just the crippled old lady alone was more terrifying than the entire Lu family. But why did they come to his Green Lake Agricola? Was it because of that young man surnamed Tang? Ao Wei and Gong Quan stood up with glints flashing in their eyes. They then said in a deep voice, since the old lady is here, we should go and greet her. That's right. She may not be a member of our occult sect, but she has a deep friendship with many of our sect's elders. She's a big shot we look up to, so we must pay her a visit to show our respect. The duo's eyes were bright with a bit of surprise. Song Donglai's expression moved and he suddenly said, do you think pulling the Lu family into our plan will be more advantageous than disadvantageous for us? Or will the disadvantages outweigh the advantages? How much do you know about the old lady of the Lu family? Asked Ao Wei. I've been in Chang City for decades, but I know very little about it. Song Donglai shook his head. But I know a lot about the Lu family's patriarch, Lu Pinxin. Tell me about it, said Ao Wei. Lu Pinxin is a man with great ambitions. He can be said to be very astute and very powerful, said Song Donglai. I even suspect that his martial prowess is also very strong. Ao Wei pondered for a moment before he nodded and said, let's meet him first and then decide on our next course of action. But even if we want to pull the Lu family into our plan, the chances of them agreeing are very small. Forget it, don't complicate things. Saying, he sat down again. Obviously, he had given up the idea of paying respects to the elder ancestor of the Lu family. Song Donglai nodded silently and said, if that's the case, then I'll go see them first. Also, I need to find out who that Tang brat is. How could he make the Lu family's ancestor and the Lu family's patriarch come to see him at the same time? Yes. Ao Wei and Gong Quan nodded. They were also curious as to what kind of deity the elder ancestor of the Lu family and the head of the Lu family came to meet at the same time. 2 minutes later, led by the bald middle-aged man, Song Donglai appeared in front of Mrs. Zhang and Lu Pinxin, who had just come out of the box. With a heart full of respect, he said, I didn't know you and Clan Master Lu would come. Please forgive me for not going out to welcome you. Madame Zhang asked in surprise, you are? Lu Pinxin knew Song Donglai, so he said with a smile, he's the owner of this Green Lake Agricola, Boss Song. I called him before to arrange a private room for Divine Dr. Tang. Mrs. Zhang suddenly understood and a smile appeared on her face. She nodded and said, little Boss Song is quite good. It seems Divine Dr. Tang is quite satisfied with him. Song Donglai's expression shifted and he hurriedly asked, who is this Divine Dr. Tang? You don't even know the famous young Divine Dr. Tan Xiu, Boss Song? Lu Pinxin said with a smile. He has a very resounding reputation. Of course, he's also an honored guest of our Lu family. Young divine doctor? Tan Xiu? Song Donglai was taken aback for a moment. His pupils abruptly shrunk as a horrified look burst out from his eyes. His body swayed and he took 2 steps back in an instant. His complexion turned deathly pale. He remembered that the young divine Dr. Tan Xiu also had another identity. He was a terrifying cultivator who once killed a lot of people from the occult sect in Kanas. He was also the god of death who sent his men to annihilate several occult families. Heavens! I actually treated him with a cold face just now? I'm doomed. I hope he's a magnanimous person and doesn't stoop to my level. Otherwise, I won't be able to escape death today even if I have 100 lives. Song Donglai's lips squirmed a few times. Dense beads of sweat appeared on his forehead as he said with difficulty, "Are you really sure that he's the famous young divine Dr. Tan Xiu in the Chinese medicine industry?" Zhang Shi and Lu Pinxin exchanged glances. After they noticed Song Donglai's unusual expression, Lu Pinxin asked with a confused expression, "Boss Song, you seem to be afraid of divine Dr. Tang, no?" He's indeed the young divine Dr. Tan Xiu, and also the big boss of the magnificent Tang Corporation. Song Donglai reached out to support the wall and revealed a smile that was uglier than crying. Then he said with a trembling voice, "It's over. I didn't recognize him just now and looked down on him when I received him. If he blames me, I'll be miserable." "Don't worry, Boss Song," Lu Pinxin said with a smile. "It's my first time seeing divine Dr. Tang, but I still know his character. Divine Dr. Tang is open-minded and kind. He won't get angry because you didn't pay attention to him, nor will he do anything unfriendly to you. Kind and kind." Song Donglai suppressed the fear in his heart and bitterly said, "Patriarch Lu, I wouldn't be so afraid if that divine Dr. Tang was really a kind person. In the eyes of the occult sect's people, he's simply a god of slaughter, a living evil star." Lu Pinxin was startled. He turned around and found that his mother, Zhang Shi, also looked surprised. He immediately asked curiously, "What happened? How did divine Dr. Tang get such a fierce reputation?" Song Donglai looked around and found that no one was paying attention to them. Then he lowered his voice and bitterly said, "Haven't the 2 of you heard about the big incident that happened in the occult sect 6 months ago? Many family members were massacred, and many powerful occult sect's powerhouses were killed. It's him. Divine Dr. Tang killed them." What? Zhang Shi and Lu Pinxin were shocked at the same time, and incredulity was written all over their faces. How could they not know about the tragedy that happened in the occult sect 6 months ago? It was just that they had inquired about it for a long time, yet they couldn't find out the reason. It turned out that it was divine Dr. Tang who killed them. Why did these occult sects people provoke Tan Xiu? "What's the reason?" asked Zhang Shi in a low voice. Song Donglai hesitated for a moment and said, "I don't know the specific reason, but I heard some news. 6 months ago, many families of the occult sect were summoned by cultivators to go to Kanas for a major event. But I don't know why they had a conflict with divine Dr. Tang in Kanas. The result was tragic. Not only were a large number of occult sect's people killed, but even those cultivators were also killed. Although I was punished by my family and haven't returned home for decades, my family still sent someone to warn me that I can provoke anyone but the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss, Tan Xiu." Zhang Shi was greatly shaken. Although she knew that Tan Xiu was very strong, she didn't expect that he would be so strong to such an extent that he could easily kill so many occult sect's people. The most important thing was that he even ruthlessly killed cultivators. He's a big tree and a big backer. Zhang Shi's thoughts changed, and she immediately became excited. She had decided to follow Tan Xiu, and the stronger Tan Xiu was, the more correct her decision would be. She was a bit worried before, fearing that Tan Xiu didn't have many means to further improve her cultivation due to her old age. But now, it seemed that Tan Xiu's power was absolutely beyond her imagination. Zhang Shi shot a deep look at Song Donglai and said in a deep voice, "You didn't tell us about it, and we didn't ask about it. Divine Dr. Tang has chosen to have a meal here, so you must serve him well. We still have time, so we won't stay for long." "I will. Don't worry." Song Donglai originally wanted Zhang Shi and Lu Pinxin to put in a good word for him in front of Tan Xiu, but it turned out that the other party didn't have such an intention. Although he was unhappy inside, he didn't dare to show it. After a while, as Zhang Shi and Lu Pinxin left, Song Donglai gritted his teeth and turned to the bald middle-aged man, saying, "Go to my office immediately and bring me the 2 bottles of God's nectar. Also, I still have some top-grade Dahong Pao tea leaves in my office. Immediately send the best tea-making expert to brew a pot of tea and send it over." Understood. The bald man didn't dare to neglect and strode away. 10 minutes later, when the bald man brought manager Wang to Song Donglai, who was pacing back and forth, Song Donglai took a deep breath and took the 2 bottles of God's nectar. He let the bald man leave first and then walked to the VIP box's entrance with manager Wang and knocked on the door. "2 distinguished guests, how's the food in our Agricola? I hope the 2 of you can be magnanimous enough to forgive me if there's any neglect." Song Donglai pretended not to know Tan Xiu's identity and spoke with a smile on his face. Tan Xiu glanced at Li Chang, who stood opposite him, and said with an expressionless face, "The game is not bad. You put a lot of special ingredients in it, right?" Song Donglai's heart immediately jumped to his throat upon hearing that. He let out a hollow laugh and said, "Don't worry, Mr. Tang. Some of the ingredients are very special, but they won't have any harmful effect on the human body after being mixed by our kitchen." "Don't worry. I don't mean anything else," said Tan Xiu. "God's nectar? Don't tell me your Agricola also provides God's nectar?" No, said Song Donglai hurriedly. "God's nectar is a top-grade wine. How can we have such a high grade here? The main thing is that all the guests who can dine in the VIP box are our distinguished guests. I spent a lot of effort to buy these 2 bottles of God's nectar with great difficulty. Manager Wang, why are you still in a daze? Hurry up and pour some tea for Mr. Tang." Understood. Although Manager Wang didn't understand why the big boss's attitude toward Tan Xiu took a 180-degree turn, she still respectfully poured the brewed tea into the cups and then placed them in front of the 2 men. Chapter 880. Looking at Song Donglai's flattering posture, Tan Xiu was a bit surprised inwardly. However, when he recalled that the Lu family's patriarch and old cripple personally came over, he felt relieved. Nowadays, powerful and influential big families could indeed make these small bosses pay attention to them. "Let's have a private chat, shall we?" Tan Xiu immediately said as he recalled the unusual situation in this Agricola. Song Donglai's heart thumped upon hearing it. He thought that Tan Xiu bore a grudge against him for being disrespectful to him and wanted to deal with him in private. His lips squirmed a few times and he said with a sullen face, "I was indeed in the wrong before, Mr. Tang. I shouldn't have ignored you. Please be magnanimous and spare me. I assure you that I'll treat you like an ancestor in the future." Cough. Tan Xiu, who had just taken a sip of tea, choked when he heard Song Donglai's words. Putting down the teacup, he took a tissue to wipe his mouth and said with an expression of being at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh, "Your boss Song, right? I, Tan Xiu, am not a narrow-minded person. I want to talk to you alone because there's something else." Upon hearing it, Song Donglai's heart that was hanging in his throat finally felt relieved and he asked with a bit of caution, "What do you want to talk to me about, Mr. Tang?" Tan Xiu got up and looked at Li Chang, saying, "Continue eating. This God's nectar is also good, so drink it well. I'm going out to talk to Boss Song about something." "All right." Li Chang usually hated drinking, but as a salesman he had to drink with his clients all day long. However, there was a kind of wine in this world that not only he didn't hate drinking, but he also looked forward to drinking it again one day. That's right, drinking it again. 6 months ago, he once met a big boss. Due to a chance coincidence, the big boss wanted to show off and made him drink 2 cups of it. The taste was so fragrant that it was unforgettable. This wine was none other than God's nectar. The full moon hung high in the sky, its watery moonlight sprinkling over the lake. A gentle breeze blew over, causing the surface of the lake to ripple. On the shore of the lake, Tan Xiu's tall and straight body was like a towering pine tree. His eyes flashed with a strange light, and his divine sense quickly merged into the lake. He smelled the faint scent of blood. After a long while, Tan Xiao retracted his spiritual consciousness and felt some regret in his heart. His spiritual consciousness was still too weak. At most, he could only probe the bottom of the lake a dozen meters deep. He couldn't probe the bottom of the lake beyond that. Mr. Song. Tan Xiao finally turned his head and looked at the apprehensive Song Donglai. Mr. Tang, you said? Said Song Donglai hurriedly. Tan Xiao nodded and said, Do you know why I insisted on staying here for dinner even though I knew that all the boxes in your place are full? He even used his connections to contact the Liu family? Song Donglai stared blankly and shook his head. I don't know. As a matter of fact, your Green Lake Agricola's game may taste good, but it can't be said to be a delicacy. It has some fame, but it's not a thunderous one. The reason why I insisted on staying here is that I sensed a faint killing intent the moment I stepped into this place. This killing intent doesn't seem to emanate from someone, but rather, it's hidden in the world. I don't understand what you mean. Song Donglai shook his head. He was nervous. He knew that Tan Xiao was right. His Green Lake Agricola did have a hidden killing intent. It was not only because of the hidden experts brought by Ao Wei and Gong Quan, but also because of the Kruer python in the lake before him. He was perfectly aware that the Kruer python was a very powerful fierce beast. Even if it was unintentional, it would still exude a faintly discernible ferocious aura. Tan Xiao squinted his eyes and lightly said, I know that every place and everyone has their own secrets. This is your territory. I shouldn't have asked. However, you have a lot of guests here, and I am one of them, so you must let me know the whole story. Saying, he took out the green book and shook it in front of Song Donglai. The moment Song Donglai's expression drastically changed, he put it away and continued, If my guess is correct, you're someone from the occult doors. Don't worry, I don't have any enmity towards the people of the strange doors, even though I have personally killed many of them. Song Donglai's lips squirmed as he asked, How did you guess it? Tan Xiao lightly said, Chimen Duanjia is something that many powerful array masters in the occult sect are proficient in. But they don't know that the best material for Chimen Duanjia is jade. There are a lot of jade stored in your Green Lake Agricola. Also, I've sensed a kind of qi in your body from many people of the strange doors. Song Donglai bitterly said, You really have a keen vision. That's right, I'm indeed someone from the occult sect, and a member of the Song family. It's just that I made some mistakes in the past and was driven out by my family, so I stayed in Chang City for decades and opened my Agricola here. Tell me, what exactly is in this lake? Tan Xiao nodded. This? Song Donglai's body trembled and the bad premonition inside his heart became more intense. The Kruer python was a fierce beast that was a scourge in the eyes of many people. However, Tan Xiao was a member of the special department in the country, so he must be very resistant to the idea of breeding fierce beasts in the city. Just in case he learned about the existence of the Kruer python and wanted to get rid of it, the hard work of the three brothers for decades would be in vain. What should I do? Song Donglai had never felt so powerless before. He couldn't beat Tan Xiao, and it was likely that he wouldn't have the chance to escape. Furthermore, the Lien family already knew that the three brothers were in Chang City. Even if the three of them could escape now, the Lien family would be able to track their whereabouts through the clues. What's wrong? Tan Xiao lightly said. Is it inconvenient for you to explain, Boss Song? If it's really inconvenient, then I'll send someone to get the thing in this lake. Don't. Song Donglai blurted out. Tan Xiao raised his brows and thoughtfully said, Since you don't want my people to do it, then explain it to me. Else, today's matter will be very difficult to resolve. Suddenly, his expression shifted and his voice raised a lot as he continued, Of course, it's not a problem if someone else comes to explain it to me. I'll explain it to you. Ao Wei and Gong Quan appeared from a dark corner and came before Tan Xiao. They cupped their fists and said, Ao Wei of the Ao family greets Grandmaster Tang. Tan Xiao turned to look at them and slowly asked, Do you know me? I've long heard of Grandmaster Tang's awe-inspiring reputation, said Ao Wei. It's my fortune to meet you today. Don't flatter me and answer my question, said Tan Xiao with a light smile. Ao Wei nodded to Song Donglai without a word. Then he spoke to Tan Xiao. Grandmaster Tang, there's actually a cruel python in this lake. We put it there after we came here yesterday. The three of us have been raising this blood python for dozens of years and have slowly cultivated it. Cruel python? A fierce beast? Tan Xiu suddenly understood and curiously asked, "What are you raising a cruel python for?" "I'm afraid only those evil cultivators would raise such a fierce beast, no? It's to arrange the cruel python array to help us three brothers break through our current shackles, like carps leaping through the dragon gate to enter the Tao through martial arts and become cultivators like you." Ao Wei forced a wry smile. The cruel python array? Tan Xiu was surprised. What kind of existence is it? Ao Wei was also aware of the present situation, so he didn't want to conceal it anymore and explained. The cruel python array is an array that uses the blood essence of a cruel python and human blood mixed with jade stones. It only has one function, and that is to instill blood to wash the Hotian essence in our bodies, causing the power inside our bodies to undergo a qualitative change. We've read about this array in an ancient book. Tan Xiu suddenly understood, but he still frowned and said, "I understand that it requires the blood essence of a cruel python, but what's the situation with it requiring human blood?" 18 living people as a sacrifice, said Ao Wei. Tan Xiu's complexion slightly changed and he shouted in a deep voice, "Do you know what you're talking about?" Using the blood of living people as a sacrifice is a demonic art, a demonic art. It's the behavior of demonic cultivators. Grandmaster Tang, we know that using the blood of living people as a sacrifice is indeed the behavior of demonic cultivators, said Ao Wei. But what if we use the blood of our enemies as a sacrifice? Enemies? What do you mean? Asked Tan Xiu in a deep voice. I don't dare to conceal it from you, Grandmaster Tang. We three brothers had a grudge with the Lien family of the occult sect because of some matters in the past. It can be said that it's a blood feud between us once we meet. We can't use the lives of ordinary people as a sacrifice, but we don't have any psychological burden if we use the Lien family's enemies who want our lives as a sacrifice. We've already spread the news before we came to Chang City yesterday, and the Lien family should have heard it by now. Perhaps it won't be long before a large number of experts of the Lien family will come here and fight with us. You're not lying to me, are you? Asked Tan Xiu. I'm not lying, Grandmaster Tang, said Ao Wei with a straight face. Just think about it. If we wanted to use the lives of ordinary people as a sacrifice, I'm afraid we would have done it long ago and wouldn't have waited until now. The reason why we haven't done it yet is not because the time is not ripe, but because the strength of US three brothers is not enough to contend with the Lien family. But now, not only have we trained a large number of trusted experts, but we also invited a powerhouse of the occult sect. Therefore, we plan to have a life and death battle with the Lien family here in the near future. We'll arrange the blood python array here and break through to a new realm in the fight. Tan Xiu calmly looked at the trio. After a long while, he lightly nodded and said, I don't care if it's a grudge between you and the occult sect's people. Just answer me a question. How long will it take for this matter to end? Ao Wei thought for a while and said, 3 days. 3 days at most. Tan Xiu nodded and said, since it's 3 days, then I'll stay. I'll leave Chang City after your grudge is over. I hope you're not lying to me, else you should know what will happen to you. Chapter 881. Although Tan Xiu spoke bluntly to the three of them, he appreciated them very much. They were able to stake everything on one throw to fight for the opportunity in cultivation. Tan Xiu seemed to see the magnificent feat of hundreds of millions of living beings in the immortal world fighting against the heaven, the earth, and the people. Half an hour later, Tan Xiu took a car and left Green Lake Agricola, but he told Mo to stay nearby and closely monitor the situation here. After returning to the Chang City Hotel with Li Chang, Tan Xiu found that Shuiyu had returned. Have you arranged everything? Tan Xiu took off his coat and saw that Shuiyu had taken a bath and was sitting on the sofa in pajamas, reading a book. He immediately asked with a smile. Shuiyu put down the book and nodded. Everything has been arranged. Besides, I got a call from that man surnamed Huang. He invited me to the coffee shop on the first floor of the hotel. That guy is really impatient. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing. Did you agree? Chuckling, Shuiyu said, if I didn't agree, how could I accompany you to put on this show? But do you really plan to use that Li Chong? That guy is indeed a talent. It's not a bad thing if I can recruit him for my own use, said Tan Xiu. However, he has something on his mind. He wanted to say something to me many times tonight, but he didn't say anything in the end. He has a patient at home, said Shuiyu with a smile. You divined again? Asked Tan Xiu curiously. No. I found it through divination before. Shuiyu shook her head. He seems to be short of money now, so he should be raising money for his family's medical treatment. Also, I found something interesting. In fact, every time he betrayed his previous company, he would make the previous company's boss suffer miserably. On the one hand, he resented those companies' bosses, but on the other hand, he had no choice. Tan Xiu thought for a moment and suddenly said, let He Xiong and Xue Sha deal with that boss Huang. Come with me, we'll go to Li Chang's house to have a look. Alright. Shuiyu gently nodded. 10 o'clock in the evening. A bit drunk, Li Chang returned to his home in the Qingya neighborhood. Pushing open the bedroom door, he saw his wife, Luoyu, leaning against the bedside lamp, staring blankly into space. He squeezed out a smile, reached out to untie his tie, and said, it's so late, why aren't you resting yet? Luoyu came back to her senses and softly said, if you don't come back, I won't be able to sleep. Li Chang was just about to sit on the bed when he suddenly realized the smell of alcohol on his body. He immediately said, I accompanied a client to drink some wine tonight, so I have the smell of alcohol on me. I'm going to take a shower first. I'll be right back. Luoyu nodded slightly and looked at her husband's back as he walked into the bathroom. She knew that she had been a burden to her husband all these years. Sometimes, she even wanted to commit suicide so that her husband could live more easily in the future. But every time she wanted to take action, she couldn't bear to leave. It wasn't that she was afraid of death, but she couldn't bear to leave her beloved husband alone in this world. Sigh. Luoyu sighed faintly and looked up at the ceiling, trying her best not to let the tears in her eyes fall. Very soon, Li Chang finished washing up. When he got into the bed in his pajamas, he gently hugged Luoyu and said, I'm afraid I'll be very busy in the next 2 days. But as long as it's successful, not only will I be able to collect enough money for your surgery, but I can also earn money for your postoperative recuperation. If you feel bored, I'll call my younger sister and ask her to take a leave to accompany you. Don't disturb Xinjie, said Luoyu hurriedly. She just finished her freshman year this year and found a temporary job in Shanghai during the summer vacation. Let her exercise well. You've been treating my illness all these years, and Xinjie's living expenses are not enough. I really don't want to burden her anymore. The reason why Xinjie wants to stay in Shanghai to work is mainly to earn more money, said Li Chang with a smile. She doesn't have to pay the tuition fee for her sophomore year. But I just said that I can earn some money in the next few days, and I can solve most of the problems at hand within half a month. Therefore, she doesn't need to earn money outside. She just needs to come back to accompany you and take care of you. That's enough. Did you get the business deal you mentioned? Asked Luoyu curiously. Not only that, but the things that happened to me in the past 2 days will be inconceivable in the eyes of many people. Li Chang nodded. Forget it. I won't tell you the specifics. But you must believe that we'll be able to live a good life soon. I believe you. Luoyu smiled faintly. Shortly after, the husband and wife chatted for a while. Just as they were about to rest, the doorbell outside suddenly rang. Li Chang, who was a bit sleepy, frowned and muttered, Who's coming so late? Let's go and have a look, said Luoyu softly. After a while, Li Chang opened the door and looked at Tan Xiu and Shuiyu outside. An incredulous look appeared on his face as he asked in surprise, Brother Tang, sister-in-law, why are you here? Tan Xiu strode into the door and lightly smiled. Did I disturb your rest and family by coming here so late? No. I'm just a bit curious. How did you know where my house is? Li Chang quickly shook his head. Is it difficult to find someone's address? Tan Xiu asked with a smile. Recalling Tan Xiu's identity, Li Chang immediately let out a hollow laugh and said, That's true. It's not difficult at all. All right, I'll cut the crap with you, said Tan Xiao. If my guess is correct, you should have a patient in your family, right? You also heard a lot of people calling me Divine Dr. Tang. This time, I came here to help you solve your worries. Li Chang was shaken inwardly and hurriedly said, Brother Tang, I do have a patient in my family. It's my wife who has a heart disease and slight kidney failure. However, I signed the contract 2 days ago. After I get the commission, I'll be able to raise enough money for my wife's operation. What? Tan Xiao asked with a faint smile. You don't believe me? Li Chang let out a hollow laugh after his thoughts were seen through. How could I? You're the famous young divine doctor. But can Chinese medicine cure a heart disease? Whether it can be cured or not, we'll know after trying it, said Tan Xiao with a smile. Prepare yourself. If your wife hasn't slept yet, you can treat her later. Li Chang hesitated and said, Brother Tang, the hospital has given me a professional treatment plan. Tan Xiao interrupted him and said, I can leave immediately if you don't believe me. Of course, if you let me try it, it won't harm your wife even if I can't cure her. Upon hearing it, Li Chang immediately felt relieved and hurriedly said, Brother Tang, sister-in-law, you two take a seat first. I'll call my wife out. Immediately, Li Chang quickly walked into the bedroom. I heard it. Who exactly is this young divine doctor? Asked Luo Yu softly. He's the young divine doctor of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, Tan Xiao, said Li Chang in a low voice. He's also a famous and powerful Chinese medicine practitioner in the country. Honey, he just said that even if he can't cure your heart disease, it won't harm you. How about we give it a try? Luo Yu nodded and said, I've heard of him. He's a very powerful young divine doctor. Since you think it's okay, then let's give it a try. Outside in the living room, Tan Xiao could clearly hear Li Chang and Luo Yu's conversation. After they came out, Tan Xiao observed Luo Yu's complexion and nodded. Yin and yang deficiency, kidney function decline. I'll check your pulse. Alright. Luo Yu sat in front of Tan Xiao and stretched out her wrist. Quickly, Tan Xiao let out a faint smile and took out a box of silver needles from his interspatial ring. He lightly smiled and said, It's a very common heart disease. It's not difficult for me. That's right, Li Chang. Go get a basin of hot water. We'll need it later. Alright. Upon hearing it, Li Chang immediately rushed to the kitchen. A smile outlined on the corner of Tan Xiao's mouth as he whispered with a smile, Take off your pajamas quickly. I need to take the stent out of your heart. Also, there may be some pain later, but you must endure it. What? You want to take the stent out of my heart? Dumbfounded, Luo Yu looked at Tan Xiao and asked with a dumbfounded expression. Tan Xiao glanced at the kitchen door and immediately knocked Luo Yu out. With Shui Yu's help, he took off Luo Yu's pajamas and moved lightning fast, constantly inserting silver needles into the major acupoints around Luo Yu's heart. Afterward, he took out a sharp scalpel. What are you doing? A few minutes later, when Li Chang came out of the kitchen with half a basin of hot water, the scene he saw made him so angry that he dashed over and roared. Shut up if you don't want anything to happen to your wife, shouted Tan Xiao. Li Chang put the hot water on the floor and watched Tan Xiao's hands moving the scalpel smoothly like moving clouds and flowing water. Anger still flashed in his eyes, but he restrained it. Divine Dr. Tang, I don't care if you're a real divine doctor or a fake one. I just want you to remember that if anything happens to my wife, I'll drag you down with me even if I have to die. You're too noisy. Tan Xiao snorted coldly. As the scalpel's tip picked out the stent in Luo Yu's heart, a steady stream of primal chaos force was quickly injected into it. On the one hand, it helped to stop the bleeding, while on the other hand, it quickly nourished and repaired her heart. Time fleeted by. More than 20 minutes later, Tan Xiao stopped injecting primal chaos force. He carefully took out the needle and thread and began to suture the wound. His hands were very steady, and although the density of the needle and thread was not high, the effect was very remarkable. After suturing, Tan Xiao washed his hands in the basin of warm water. He then looked at Li Chang and said, There are a total of 12 silver needles around your wife's heart. Keep in mind that you must not pull them out within 24 hours. I'll come back here 24 hours later, and you'll know whether my treatment is effective or not. Li Chang really wanted to go all out against Tan Xiu. Without his permission, Tan Xiu unexpectedly made the decision to operate on his wife, and even used such a shallow method. However, since things had come to this, he could only accept it and pray to God that his wife would be safe and sound. Chapter 882. Tan Xiu behaved very irresponsibly. After treating Luo Yu, he patted his butt and left with Shui Yu. All he left behind was a prescription and a few simple instructions. In the empty hall, Li Chang wanted to cry but had no tears. He didn't expect that today's encounter would be so bizarre and strange. He didn't expect that the final change would be his wife being operated on. The series of sudden changes caught him off guard, and he didn't know how to deal with the aftermath. Call the police? Call an ambulance? Li Chang repeatedly thought about these two ideas in his mind, but in the end, he couldn't make up his mind. He didn't dare to go against Tan Xiu's instructions. If he removed the silver needles from his wife's body and put her life in danger, it would be troublesome. What to do? Li Chang subconsciously took out a cigarette, but he remembered that his wife was not suitable for secondhand smoke, so he immediately threw the cigarette away in annoyance. It's all my fault. If I were as capable as those big shots in the Lu family, that Tang bastard wouldn't have so easily. Those people from the Lu family. Realizing something, Li Chang quickly grabbed his mobile phone and a business card. He dialed the phone number on the business card and soon got in touch with Song Donglai, the owner of Green Lake Agricola. From Song Donglai, he successfully got the private phone number of Lu Pinxin, the head of the Lu family. Of course, most of the reason why everything went so smoothly was because of Tan Xiu, which made Song Donglai mistakenly believe that Li Chang was Tan Xiu's man. Hello, who is this? After the call went through, Lu Pinxin's voice came from the phone. Judging from his tone, Lu Pinxin had not rested yet. Li Chang held the phone and said carefully, "Hello, Patriarch Lu. I'm Li Chang. I was the one who ate with Tan Xiu at Green Lake Agricola today. I didn't disturb your rest, did I? Mr. Li?" Lu Pinxin said in surprise. Li Chang quickly said, "That's right, it's me. Sorry to disturb you so late at night. But I have something to ask you, so? Brother Li, feel free to ask me anything. I won't hide anything from you as long as I know it." Lu Pinxin's hearty laughter came from the phone. Brother Li? Li Chang couldn't help but shiver in his heart. With Lu Pinxin's status, wealth, and power, he was probably just an ant in his eyes in the past. Who would have thought that there would be a day when such a famous person would also call him brotherly? Is it because of Tan Xiu? A complicated look flashed in Li Chang's eyes as he asked, "Patriarch Lu, I really don't understand. Why are you so respectful to Tan Xiu today? Also, why does your mother value Tan Xiu so much? Even if he is the big boss of the magnificent Tang Corporation, your Lu family is not worse than his Tang family. Even if he's a great Chinese medicine practitioner, he can't be better than the specialists and professors of those large hospitals, right?" Lu Pinxin was silent for more than 10 seconds and then slowly asked, "Are you not familiar with divine Dr. Tang?" Li Chang's heart skipped a beat. His eyes flickered with wisdom as he said, "I'm indeed not very familiar with her. Today, we got to know each other for a very special reason. However, he wants me to work for him in the future and said that he wants to train me to be his confidant. That's why I want to inquire more about him from you." Divine Dr. Tang wants to train you to be his confidant? Lu Pinxin was shocked. Yeah. Li Chang let out a hollow laugh. Lu Pinxin's tone was full of envy as he sighed. "Brother Li, I didn't expect you to be so lucky to be favored by Divine Dr. Tang. If he likes me, I'm willing to serve him even if I don't want to be the Lu family's patriarch. I can answer your question, but don't forget me after you become rich and powerful later." Lu Pinxin's words scared Li Chang. After a while, he stuttered, No problem. Don't forget me when you become rich and powerful." Lu Pinxin was very satisfied with Li Chang's answer. He cleared his throat and said, "Since Divine Dr. Tang wants to train you as his confidant, it proves that you're outstanding, Brother Li. Also, I believe you'll know his true identity sooner or later, so I'll tell you in advance. But don't disclose what I said to anyone else. Please tell me. I'll never disclose it to a third person, said Li Chang hurriedly. Divine Dr. Tang has another title, Grandmaster Tang, said Lu Pinxin. He's a cultivator with a mysterious and unfathomable power. He's very powerful, very powerful. I'm afraid that ordinary people like us are no different from ants in his eyes. What is a cultivator? A Taoist priest in a Taoist temple? Li Chang was puzzled and asked, how can those Taoist priests in ordinary Taoist temples be compared to Grandmaster Tang? Lu Pinxin forced a smile. Grandmaster Tang is a real cultivator, a great figure who pursues cultivation and power. He's a living immortal in the eyes of mortals. That's right, there are a lot of Xianxia novels on the internet. You can have a look at them. They're talking about people like him. Xianxia novels? Li Chang hung up the phone in a daze and quickly turned on his computer to search for keywords such as cultivator and Xianxia novels on the internet. Soon, a lot of information appeared. It took him 2 hours. Li Chang looked at a lot of searched keywords, and now his heart was trembling. The shock he felt toward Tan Xiu's identity had reached an indescribable level. He didn't expect that the legendary celestial immortals actually existed in this world. He never thought that such a celestial immortal figure would have an intersection with him. He didn't believe in others. But he believed in the Lu family's patriarch, Lu Pinxin, because this person's identity was too high. He would never lie to him. Furthermore, the things that happened tonight made him realize that Tan Xiu's identity as a cultivator was probably true. A true god. Li Chang turned off his computer and looked up at his sleeping wife on the sofa. After detecting her breath and measuring her body temperature with a thermometer, he found that his wife's vital signs were very stable. Therefore, his restless heart slowly calmed down. The next day, Li Chang didn't leave home even half a step. Even though his wife had woken up at noon, he still stayed by her side. As for the prescription, he asked a good friend to help him go to the medicinal herbs market and buy all the medicinal herbs he needed. "How do you feel, honey?" asked Li Chang with concern as he watched his wife drink the whole bowl of Chinese medicine. "Very good. I haven't felt so comfortable for years," said Luo Yu with a chuckle. "I used to feel stuffy inside, like a rock was pressing down on my heart. But now, I feel that the rock has suddenly been removed, making me feel a lot more relaxed. And this Chinese medicine, after I drank it, I felt warm all over and very comfortable. I also have more strength than before." Upon hearing this, Li Chang was sure that Tan Xiu's treatment was really effective, and the effect was much better than having an operation in the hospital. Full of excitement, he said, "Let's wait for a while more. Divine Dr. Tang said that he can pull out the silver needles in your body tonight. I'll call him at that time and ask if he'll come in person." "All right." Luo Yu nodded with a smile. Chang City Hotel. After Tan Xiu and Shui Yu came to the cafeteria on the second floor, they saw Boss Huang with a bloody nose and swollen face, hiding in the corner and making a phone call. The food in front of him was steaming hot with smoke and a rich aroma, but he didn't seem to have the slightest appetite. Tan Xiu seems to have been cleaned up very miserably. Shui Yu held Tan Xiu's arm and chuckled. "That fella is lascivious by nature," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "This time, he was blinded by lard and wanted to hit you. If I don't make him pay the price, it'll be hard for him to teach him a lesson. I'll tell you a secret. He'll completely lose his ability as a man in half a year at most." "You're really naughty," said Shui Yu with a chuckle. "No, it has nothing to do with me." Tan Xiu shook his head. "It was Xue Sha and He Xiong who did it. All right, let's not talk about him and eat first. We'll go out for a stroll in the afternoon and then go to Li Chang's house in the evening. Although I've cured his wife's heart disease, she still needs to recuperate for some time. I'll give them some instructions when I pull out the silver needles." Shui Yu nodded. After glancing at the dining room a few times, she suddenly asked curiously, "All has been with you as far as I know. But I haven't seen him since you came back last night. Where did he go?" "I sent him to monitor some people. I'll take you to see a good show tomorrow," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "What good show?" asked Shuiyu curiously. Fighting, said Tan Xiu. What do you mean? Asked Shuiyu confused. Fighting for life, fighting for the world's destiny, and fighting for the great Tao's opportunity, said Tan Xiu with a smile. I won't tell you the details for the time being. You'll know about it tomorrow night. Shuiyu let out a faint smile and said, Then let's not talk about it. Last night, the ancestor sent someone to call me and asked me to ask you when you can go to Nine Dragons Island. She seems to be a bit anxious. Tan Xiu pondered for a moment and said, Let's go to Nine Dragons Island after we come back from Kanas. The reconstruction project there has reached the final stage, and I need to deal with the final finishing touches. Otherwise, it won't become the paradise in paradise that I've always dreamed of. At the corner of the dining room, Boss Huang suppressed the rage in his chest. After he hung up the phone, his face looked a little murderous. He was tricked by that woman last night and then got beaten up by those two bastards. It made him so angry that he almost went crazy. Therefore, he called his men and asked them to rush over here. He was determined to find those bastards who beat him last night, as well as that unbelievably beautiful bitch. Motherfucker! Don't let me find you again, else I'll kill you. Boss Huang then threw the phone on the table, grabbed the chopsticks, and took a bite of the food. But because he opened his mouth, the wound on the corner of his mouth made him gasp in pain. I swear I'm not a man if I don't avenge this enmity. Boss Huang endured the pain and swore inwardly. After losing the mood to eat, he looked up and his eyes happened to fall on Tan Xiu and Shuiyu not far away. Chapter 883. Full of anger, Boss Huang strode toward Tan Xiu and Shuiyu. He had figured out the whole thing. Shuiyu stood him up yesterday, and the two big men appeared and violently beat him up. It was all a scheme against him. Boss Huang pointed at the two men and roared, You two fucking bastards! How dare you plot against me? I'll take your surname if I don't kill you today. You're not that stupid. Tan Xiu shook his head with a smile. While opening the menu, he shook his head and smilingly said, Even if you want to take our surname, we won't dare to agree. It's because we haven't planned to have children yet. It's not like we can suddenly have a son or grandson, right? A cunning look flashed in Shuiyu's eyes as she cooperated with him and said, No. I'll strangle him to death if I have such a lecherous son or grandson. Ha! Tan Xiu didn't expect that Shuiyu could say such words. He looked at her with satisfaction and turned to look at Boss Huang, saying with a smile, Did you hear that? You're not qualified to be our grandson or grandson, so get the hell out of here. Else, it won't be fun if you're really strangled to death. Boss Huang's face turned red and a look of humiliation flashed in his eyes. His murderous eyes swept over Tan Xiu and Shuiyu as he laughed out of extreme anger. Good, good, good. You've got guts. Just wait for me. This matter is not over yet. Having said that, he turned around and returned to the dining table, picked up his briefcase and mobile phone, and directly strode away without eating. Tan Xiu watched him leave and shook his head. Being able to become a boss proves that he has a bit of ability. But it's a pity that this kind of bad character and reckless lust won't have a good end in the future. Anyways, let's not talk about him anymore. It's just a waste of time. Alright. Shuiyu gently nodded with a smile. In her opinion, Tan Xiu was too outstanding and dazzling, so she didn't like other men at all. In the evening, Tan Xiu and Shuiyu came to Li Chang's house again. They pulled out the silver needles from Li Chang's wife, Luo Yu, and finished the diagnosis. After that, he said with satisfaction, She's fine now. She just needs to rest and recuperate for the next 2 to 3 months. I guarantee that she'll be as healthy as a normal person after that. However, don't stop taking the Chinese medicine I prescribed. Not only is it effective in nourishing the heart, but it's also very effective in treating kidney deficiency and kidney failure. Li Chang hurriedly asked, Brother Tang, can my wife really be like an ordinary person in the future? Then, can I get pregnant? Tan Xiu smiled and said, Of course, no problem. Li Chang looked excited. He rubbed his hands and said, That's great. We used to seek medical treatment everywhere. The conclusion we got was that my wife not only had heart disease, but also had kidney problems. She couldn't conceive a child at all. Brother Tang, Divine Dr. Tang, thank you so much. Tan Xiu waved his hand and said, you don't need to be so polite with me. It's enough as long as you screw that manager Huang and come to work for me in the magnificent Tang Corporation. Li Chang said resolutely, I promise to complete the task. Knock knock. The door was knocked and a voice came from the outside. Are you home, brother? Open the door. Li Chang stared blankly for a moment before he was pleasantly surprised and said, my younger sister is back. Having said that, he sprinted to the door. After opening the door, he looked at the tall girl outside and smilingly said, Xinjie, I didn't expect you to come back so soon. There's a distinguished guest at home. Hurry up and come in. A distinguished guest? Who is it? The tall girl smiled and strode through the door. When she saw Tan Xiu in the living room, she was slightly startled and looked incredulous as she called out, Tan Xiu, why are you at my house? Tan Xiu looked at the newcomer with a strange expression and asked, is this your house, Li Xinjie? Yeah, said Li Xinjie. Li Chang and Luo Yu on the sofa exchanged dismayed glances. After a while, Li Chang asked with a surprised expression, do you know my younger sister, Brother Tang? We're both students of Shanghai University, said Tan Xiu with a smile. No way. Li Chang was surprised. You're already the big boss of the famous magnificent Tang Corporation, yet you're still a student of Shanghai University? You're not joking with me, are you? Brother, Tan Xiu isn't joking. He's a freshman at Shanghai University and should be a sophomore after the summer vacation, said Li Xinjie. What's wrong? Tan Xiu also laughed. I'm the owner of the magnificent Tang Corporation, so why can't I be a student of Shanghai University? Didn't the ancients say that there's no end to the sea of learning? Take advantage of your youth to learn more things, and you'll be able to go further and have greater achievements in the future. These words are also for you. Even if you're an expert in sales, you'll have to work and learn at the same time if you want to climb faster and climb higher after joining the magnificent Tang Corporation in the future. All right, I got it. Li Chang nodded and replied with a serious face. Li Xinjie was stunned and asked in surprise, Tan Xiu, you said that my brother will work for the magnificent Tang Corporation later? That's right, you haven't told me how you got to know each other. Also, how did you come to Chang City, Tan Xiu? I came to Chang City to do something and happened to bump into your brother, said Tan Xiu with a smile. He's definitely a good sales talent, so I'm going to let him work for the magnificent Tang Corporation later. Li Xinjie immediately understood and happily said, thank you, Tan Xiu. I know my brother is amazing. Li Chang let out a hollow laugh and looked at his wife, Luo Yu. He hurriedly said, Xinjie, we really must thank Brother Tang. He cured your sister-in-law's heart disease and is our family's great benefactor. Li Xinjie stared blankly and immediately became ecstatic. My sister-in-law's heart disease has been cured? That's great. Thank you, Tan Xiu. Thank you so much. It's all my fault. I knew that you're a famous divine doctor, but I didn't ask you to treat my sister-in-law. All right, no need to thank me again. Tan Xiu waved his hand. That's right. Let me introduce you. This is Shui Yu. She's a postgraduate student at Shanghai University and Mu Weiniang's roommate. Mu Weining? Shui Yu's expression slightly changed, but she concealed it in an instant. After Li Xinjie returned home, she saw the breathtakingly beautiful Shui Yu. Although she had been suppressing the questions inside her heart, she realized that the relationship between this woman named Shui Yu and Tan Xiu was definitely not ordinary after hearing Tan Xiu's introduction. You are, Li Xinjie hesitated for a moment before asking. She's my woman, said Tan Xiu after being silent for a moment. What did you say? Exclaimed Li Xinjie. If she's your woman, then what about Weiniang? Weiniang knows her, said Tan Xiu. She knows her? Asked Li Xinjie incredulously. She also knows Weiniang? Shui Yu stretched out her hand and calmly said, I know Mu Weiniang. She's Tan Xiu's real girlfriend, the first campus belle of Shanghai University and the first beauty in the imperial capital. She's a very outstanding woman. Li Xinjie's lips squirmed and she couldn't help but ask, what you want to ask is why I'm still willing to follow Tan Xiu, said Shui Yu calmly. That's right. I can answer you that I'm indeed willing to follow him for the rest of my life. Not only me, but other women will also follow him even if they know about Mu Weiniang's existence. You? Li Xinjie was shocked. She really couldn't understand this fairy-like beautiful woman in front of her. Tan Xiu didn't want to talk about this anymore and said, "My mission has been completed. Remember what I said. You must pay attention to rest and recuperate in the next 2 or 3 months. Don't stop taking Chinese medicine and drink it for 3 months. We still have something to do, so we'll take our leave first." Shortly after, Tan Xiu left with Shuiyu. In the hall, Luo Yu waved her hand and called Li Xinjie to her side. She pulled her hand and asked, "Xinjie, you seem to be very familiar with this divine Dr. Tang?" "Sister-in-law, I live in the same dormitory with his real girlfriend, and we're very good sisters. How could I not be familiar with him?" Li Xinjie forced a wry smile. "It's just that I didn't expect that he has other women besides Weiniang. Moreover, this woman's figure, appearance, and temperament are not worse than Weiniang's." Luo Yu was silent for a moment. She then shook her head and said, "Remember, Xinjie, other people's relationship issues are their business. Even if you have a deep relationship with that girl named Mu Weiniang, don't meddle in it. Else you'll be embarrassed." Li Xinjie nodded without saying a word. The next day, after Tan Xiu and Shuiyu checked out of the Chang City Hotel, they walked out of the hotel's entrance. However, to Tan Xiu's surprise, there were a lot of gangster-like people in the vicinity, pretending to stroll around. "We're in trouble," said Shuiyu in a low voice. "It's a trouble for others, but it's nothing for us," said Tan Xiu lightly. "Let's go. We'll go straight to Green Lake Agricola. Tonight should be the time to watch the show." Creak. After the Mercedes-Benz SUV stopped, Tan Xiu and Shuiyu directly boarded the car. Seeing that many gangsters in the surroundings moved quickly and even 2 black SUVs stopped behind them, Tan Xiu sneered and said, "Jin Shi, drive slowly. Let those people follow us." "Boss, do you want to let Shui Sha and He Xiong deal with those people?" asked Jin Shi. "No need." Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "Since that surnamed Huang wants to play, then let's play with him first." Today, a major event was bound to happen in Green Lake Agricola. Those people should be powerful figures, at least martial artists with extraordinary strength. If that surnamed Huang ordered his gangster underlings to rush into Green Lake Agricola, it would be fun to watch. "Your smile is a bit sinister, Tan Xiu," said Shuiyu with a smile. "Am I?" Tan Xiu let out a strange smile. "How come I don't feel it?" Tang Xiu smiled and said, "It's true. It's like I can already see it. That Huang pervert is going to be out of luck soon. However, if I were to clean him up now, would it affect your later plans? After all, you want Li Chang to work for the magnificent Tang Corporation." Chapter 884. Tan Xiu was very concerned about Boss Huang's life. After all, Li Chang would follow him for some time in the future. After discovering that Boss Huang wanted to retaliate against him, an idea popped into Tan Xiu's mind. It was a good idea that could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. It won't affect him. Tan Xiu lit a cigarette and looked out the window, saying that Huang won't die this time. He'll be taught a lesson at most. But those local thugs under his command won't have such good luck. Quickly, the Mercedes-Benz was only a few kilometers away from Green Lake Agricola. Jin Shi, who was driving, immediately stopped the car on the roadside after noticing Mo. "Boss, Green Lake Agricola is suspended for business." Mo stood outside the window and respectfully reported as Tan Xiu opened the window. "How's the situation in the Agricola?" asked Tan Xiu. "He's hiding his killing intent," said Mo. "The 64 experts trained by Song Donglai, Ao Wei, and Gong Quan are all hidden. Yesterday, there was also a martial artist surnamed Han who came here. Including Song Donglai and the other 2, there are a total of 68 people in the Agricola. The entire Agricola is now an array. It's easy to enter, but it's very difficult to come out." Tan Xiu nodded indifferently and said, "Get on the car. Let's go inside." Mo complied and sat in the front passenger seat. The Mercedes-Benz SUV then drove toward Green Lake Agricola. After entering the wide road, they quickly saw the gate of the Agricola. At this time, the gate of the Agricola was no longer as lively as it used to be. Even the security guards at the gate had been removed. The moment Tan Shio got off the car, he released his spiritual sense to cover the area within a radius of 200 to 300 meters. From his observation, he saw dozens of stalwart men armed with weapons hiding in various hidden corners. Among them, more than a dozen of them had already noticed their arrival. Guns? Tan Shio didn't expect that Song Donglai's men would have guns. Within the range of his spiritual sense, a total of 4 men armed with guns were hiding in various directions, with their muzzles aimed at the gate. Someone's coming, boss. Jin Shi, who was following behind Tan Shio, suddenly spoke. Tan Shio nodded and looked at Song Donglai, who was walking over from a short distance away. This time, only Song Donglai came out. As for his 2 friends and his subordinates, they didn't appear. Mr. Tang. Song Donglai came to Tan Shio with a smile on his face and greeted him respectfully. Tan Shio smiled faintly and said, "Not bad. This formation is quite interesting." "You must be joking, Mr. Tang." Song Donglai forced a wry smile and said, "That's all we can do, though I don't know how many people from the Lien family will come this time. If there are too many of them, or if the ancestors of the Lien family take action, I'm afraid it will be very difficult for us to win." Mr. Tang can? Tan Shio raised his hand to interrupt him. He shook his head and said, "I have no enmity with the Liens, so I have no reason to attack them. The grudges between the 2 of you will be settled by yourselves. I'm only here to be a witness. I won't get involved in your feud." "Mr. Tang?" said Song Donglai bitterly. Tan Shio interrupted him again and calmly said, "You won't get much benefit from me helping you. You must rely on yourself if you want to get that opportunity and become a true cultivator. Only the sword in your hand can cut through the thistles and thorns in the struggle for the great Tao. If you rely on me to easily deal with the Lien family, you will lack this tempering, which will cause problems in your state of mind in the future. This time, you're fighting with the Lien family, but it's also a fight with yourself." "State of mind? Fighting with myself?" Song Donglai faintly realized the meaning Tan Shio wanted to express. After a moment of silence, he said, "Can I ask you something, Mr. Tang? It's a very simple matter. If we brothers die here today, can you send someone to send our corpses back to our families? The fallen leaves will return to their roots, and our families will be our final resting place." "I promise you." Tan Shio nodded. Song Donglai shot a grateful look at Tan Shio and suddenly said, "Mr. Tang, I'll give this Green Lake Agricola to you if we brothers all die in battle. Consider it my thanks for agreeing to help me." Tan Shio shook his head and said, "A gentleman loves money, but he must obtain it in a proper way. I can kill you and occupy your property if we're enemies, but I can't accept it this time. This Green Lake Agricola will be the property of your Song family if all of you die in battle. However, I hope you can live and fight for a chance to survive. I hope you can enter the Tao through martial arts and become a true cultivator." "Donglai will engrave Mr. Tang's teachings in my heart," said Song Donglai respectfully. "I won't intervene in your affairs, but I don't mind making a deal with you if you can survive and successfully break through to the Qi refining stage," said Tan Shio with a smile. "What deal?" asked Song Donglai, confused. "I'll sell you a cultivation art," said Tan Shio with a smile. Song Donglai's body trembled violently and a look of ecstasy burst from his eyes as he hurriedly asked, "Mr. Tang, as long as we can break through to the Qi refining stage you mentioned, we're willing to buy that cultivation art no matter how big the price is." Tan Shio let out a faint smile and said, "All right, continue with the preparations. This Agricola will soon turn into a battlefield, so it's inconvenient for us to stay here. Remember my words. I don't care about your fight with the Lien family, but you must not involve ordinary people, else I won't mind getting rid of an evil for the people." "Understood," replied Song Donglai with a solemn expression. Tan Shio put his arm around Shui Yu's shoulder and hugged her toward the depths of the Agricola, followed by Shui Sha and He Xiong. The 6 of them passed through the Agricola and came to the edge of the mountain. This kind of blood python formation was very powerful to others, but to Tan Xiu, it was full of loopholes. He easily brought everyone out of the blood python formation and quickly rushed to the hillside hundreds of meters away. This place is not bad. On a relatively flat hillside, Tan Xiu's gaze swept across several large blue stones. He then clasped his hands behind his back and looked down at the green Lake Agricola at the foot of the hill. "Those people who are following us should be outside the green Lake Agricola now," said Shuiyu. "What are you going to do next?" "Of course I'm going to find Boss Huang's savior," said Tan Xiu with a smile. Finished. He took out his mobile phone and dialed Li Chang's cell number. After the other party answered, he said, "Contact Green Lake Agricola's boss, Song Donglai. Tell him not to stop anyone from coming to the Agricola. I brought them to the spacious hall and provided them with good wine and food. I treated them as cannon fodder. Remember, after you get here, your first mission is to protect Boss Huang and earn his trust." "Shall I set off now?" asked Li Chang. "That's right. Now," replied Tan Xiu with a smile. At the entrance of the Green Lake Agricola, 2 black SUVs were parked outside. On the front passenger seat of the car in front was a middle-aged man with a ferocious scar on his left cheek. He frowned and took out his mobile phone. After dialing a cell number, he said, "Boss, those people just entered the Green Lake Agricola. Don't alert them. Just wait for me." Boss Huang's deep voice came out of the phone. Half an hour later, a black Audi and 2 Jinbei vans arrived. After Boss Huang got off the Audi, he asked in a heavy voice, "Where are those bastards?" "They're inside. They haven't come out yet," answered the scarred man. "I've been to this Green Lake Agricola a few times," sneered Boss Huang. "There's only one way in and out. Since they're still inside, I'm going to kill them today. Remember this when you make your move. Beat all the men to death, but don't touch that woman. I'll fucking be her son if I don't make her perform 108 postures today." The scarred man grinned and said, "Boss, can you let us have some fun if you're tired of playing with them? I've seen that woman. She's the best beauty I've ever seen in my life." Boss Huang glanced at him. He took out a cigarette and lit it up. After taking 2 puffs, he nodded and said, "Just wait until I'm tired of playing with her. Then you can have your fun." A few minutes later, Boss Huang led more than 20 thugs with clubs and strode into the Agricola. What puzzled him was that it was almost noon now. It should be a good time for the Agricola to have a good business, so how come there were no guests at noon today? Something's not right. Boss Huang passed through the corridor and came to the spacious hall inside. He suddenly stopped and shouted in a deep voice. "What's wrong, boss?" asked the scarred man, confused. Boss Huang cautiously observed the surroundings and said in a deep voice, "Haven't you noticed that we've been inside for several minutes, yet we haven't seen a single person? Also, I've been here a few times before. The business here is very good, with many guests, security guards at the entrance, and many waiters. But now, there's no one here." The scarred man's heart thumped upon hearing it and he hurriedly said, "Did we fall into their trap, boss?" Boss Huang took a deep breath and cautiously said, "Let's leave this place first. Let's wait outside." At this moment, Song Donglai came over with the middle-aged manager Wang. After seeing Boss Huang's group, he smiled and said in a clear voice, "Isn't this Boss Huang? What kind of wind blew you here today? But, what kind of show are you playing today? I don't think I've offended you, so why did you bring so many people here? Do you want to smash my Agricola?" Boss Huang knew Song Donglai and was aware that the latter had some ability in Chang City, so he let out a hollow laugh and said, "You misunderstood me, Boss Song. Since when did I bring people to smash your place? It's mainly because some bastards ran to your place and we chased after them." Song Donglai deliberately showed a look of realization and said, "I know who you're talking about. I only have one group of guests here today. But they seem to have something to deal with and left." Chapter 885. Boss Huang was dumbfounded. He looked at Song Donglai, who didn't look like he was lying. He hesitated for a moment before turning to look at the scar-faced man. The scar-faced man hurriedly said, "Boss, I dare to hit my chest and swear that those people have never left. After they had entered the farmhouse, we had been blocking the entrance. If what you said is true and there's only one exit in this farmhouse, the other party is definitely still here. Those guests left more than half an hour ago. Song Donglai shook his head. They left the car here and left in a hurry from the back of the mountain. They seemed to be in a panic. Ran away? Boss Huang was dumbfounded. Scarface was even more dumbfounded and at a loss of what to do. After a long while, Boss Huang looked around and asked, "Boss Song, your place looks a little different today. If I remember correctly, your business used to be booming, and it would be packed at lunchtime. Why is it so quiet today? Not only are there no customers, but even the waiters are nowhere to be seen?" Song Donglai proudly smiled and said, "You're quite well informed, Boss Huang. Don't you know that my shop is closed for 3 days? For the sake of the big plan I'm preparing, I'm going all out." Boss Huang was puzzled. "Grand plan? What grand plan? I've been quite busy lately, so I didn't have time to drop by." Song Donglai clapped and smilingly said, "It's better to come at the right time than to be early. Boss Huang, your visit today is really a happy occasion for me. My grand plan is that in the past 3 days, our chefs here have been researching new recipes and have just come up with results. I believe that once our new menu is presented to the customers, it will definitely be greatly welcomed by them. How is my visit today a happy occasion for you?" asked Boss Huang with a smile. "However, it is a good thing that we have developed a new recipe." "Boss Huang, who are you?" asked Song Donglai. "You are a big boss who has tasted all kinds of delicacies. My new product has just been successfully developed, and you just happened to come here. Isn't this a happy occasion? I was just worried that no one would try it, and then you came. How about this? All the brothers you brought here today can stay and try our new dish. Don't worry, I won't take a single cent. You just have to tell me how it tastes after you taste it." "Ah." Boss Huang stared at Song Donglai with a dumbfounded expression. He never dreamed that he would encounter such a thing. His main purpose of coming to Green Lake Agricola this time was to seek revenge. But in the end, he didn't even see his enemy. Instead, he could eat and drink for free here? He turned his head to look at the more than 20 men behind him, who looked tempted. After hesitating for a while, he nodded and said, "We can't refuse Boss Song's kind invitation. Since that bastard and that bitch have already escaped, I'll settle the score with him another day." "All right, let's go," said Song Donglai with a satisfied smile. "Everyone, please follow me to the dining room first. I'll tell the kitchen staff to prepare the dishes and bring them here immediately. By the way, since Boss Huang has helped me a lot today, I still have an unopened bottle of God's nectar. Shall we have a drink later?" "God's nectar?" Boss Huang's spirit was shaken and he subconsciously gulped. He nodded without hesitation and said, "That's great. I like God's nectar the most." Chong City. On the highway dozens of kilometers away from Green Lake Agricola, 6 Wrangler SUVs roared as they sped toward Green Lake Agricola. In the third car, with a cigarette dangling from the corner of his mouth, killing intent flashed in Lien Bai's eyes. The street scenery outside flashed before his eyes, but he didn't have the mood to appreciate it. The enmity of killing his younger brother was absolutely irreconcilable. As the patriarch of the Lien family, Lien Bai had endured a lot of things in his life, but the most unbearable thing was that his younger brother died in the hands of a few bastards. He could seek revenge without any scruples if they were ordinary people, but these 3 enemies were not ordinary people. Ao family, Song family, and Gong family. Lien Bai fiercely threw the cigarette but out of the window. The killing intent in his heart was getting stronger. "I'll get rid of Ao Wei, Song Donglai, and Gong Quan first. I've spent a lot of effort this time to invite the 2 ancestors who have been in seclusion for many years, as well as a large number of experts from my Lien family. If I don't kill the 3 of you, I, Lien Bai, am not a man. After getting rid of the 3 of you, I'll deal with your families next. My Lien family is not afraid of any of you, but we can't be enemies with all 3 of you at the same time. However, all of you just wait. Wait for me to slowly accumulate my strength, and one day, I will massacre your 3 clans." Suddenly, a flame burst out of Lien Bai's palm. The egg-sized flame exuded an intense heat, causing the temperature inside the Wrangler SUV to suddenly rise. Patriarch! Lien Peng called out in a low voice from the front passenger seat. Lien Bai glanced at Lien Peng and immediately retracted the flame, asking in a deep voice, "How far are we from our destination?" "More than 30 kilometers," answered Lien Peng. Lien Bai was silent for a moment and slowly said, "Remember this. Don't worry about anyone if you encounter danger. Just run for your life at the fastest speed. I've been feeling a bit restless these days. It's like a trap is waiting for us." "It's actually a trap," said Lien Peng. "However, traps are also divided into big and small. If the trap is too small and can't accommodate the huge prey, it won't play any role. We've invited the 2 ancestors this time, so those 3 bastards must die even if they have the ability to reach the heavens." Lien Bai was silent for a moment and slowly said, "We still can't be careless. Little Ya is a new face, so let him go in ahead of time to inquire about the situation. Given his ability, even if there's a problem inside, only a few people can catch him." "Little Ya is indeed a genius in practicing the shadow technique," said Lien Peng with a smile. "Even if Song Donglai's territory is full of crisis, it won't be much pressure for him." Shortly after, 6 cars were parked a few kilometers away from the Green Lake Agricola. A young man in a black training suit with a long sword on his back came down from the second car. He glanced around and then quickly rushed toward the Green Lake Agricola. He was Little Ya. He was a talent cultivated by the Lien family's patriarch. Due to his special ability since childhood, he had undergone cruel training and had extremely powerful means in assassination, tracking, and investigation. He had even accepted assassin missions abroad and became famous as Ghost Shadow in just 3 years, and was ranked in the top 20 of the world's assassin ranking list. A few minutes later, just as Yachan approached the Green Lake Agricola, its body suddenly twisted a few times and it disappeared into thin air. Only the fluctuations in the air indicated that he had easily entered the Green Lake Agricola. Sure enough, it's a trap. Little Ya kept appearing in the nearby hidden corners of the Agricola and saw more than a dozen hidden experts with his own eyes. Soon after, he had a general understanding of the situation inside the Agricola and also had a clear understanding of the situation inside. Just as he stealthily left the Agricola, his complexion suddenly changed. What the hell is this? An invisible energy shield blocked his way. Just at this moment, in a hidden room in the depths of the Green Lake Agricola, Ao Wei's complexion suddenly changed and he shouted in a deep voice, "Go check it out quickly. Someone wants to leave the blood python array. Find out who it is." "Understood." 4 stalwart men rushed out of the room at the same time. The 4 men kept calling out to them and searched for more than 10 minutes, yet they couldn't find any trace of anyone who wanted to leave. "There's no one, boss," one of the stalwart men reported through a walkie-talkie. Ao Wei said in a deep voice, "Someone is definitely trying to leave. The blood python array has been triggered, and the other party is still constantly attacking the energy layer of the blood python array. Search carefully and send more people. We must find this person for me." "Understood." As the number of people increased, more than 20 people quickly joined the search. However, they couldn't find the culprit's figure no matter how hard they searched. Gong Quan silently appeared at the entrance of the Agricola with a dagger in his hand. His sharp eyes flickered with a cold glint as he constantly observed the surroundings. Suddenly, a ripple appeared in the air a dozen meters away from him, causing his complexion to change. Nearly without the slightest hesitation, his figure shot forward like an arrow and dashed toward the ripple in the air. "Die!" Gong Quan swung his dagger without a target, but a dozen seconds after he waved his arm, a blood stain appeared out of thin air. In the blink of an eye, Little Ya in a black training suit appeared. At the same time, the 2 darts in Little Ya's hands instantly shot toward Gong Quan's glabella and throat. God damn it! Gong Quan possessed amazing strength and had long broken through to the martial Dao Grandmaster realm. The moment he sensed the approaching danger, he abruptly moved half a meter and dodged the darts that were aimed at his glabella and throat lightning fast. However, because the distance of the darts was very close to him and there was no warning, one of the darts still tore a bloody wound on his cheek. Who the hell are you? Gong Quan violently retreated 7 to 8 meters back and shouted at Little Ya. Little Ya's brows were tightly furrowed, but he contemptuously looked at Gong Quan before his figure flickered and disappeared without a trace. His speed was very fast and he dashed into the Agricola lightning fast without Gong Quan's sight. Invisibility? Damn it. Everyone listen up. Pay attention to your surroundings. A bastard has sneaked in and is able to turn invisible. Gong Quan cursed and roared loudly. In a flash, most of the people in the entire Agricola heard Gong Quan's roar. Inside the restaurant, Boss Huang and more than 20 of his men were waiting for the food and drinks to be delivered. It had been nearly half an hour, yet the food and drinks had yet to be delivered, making him somewhat dissatisfied. What's that sound? The scar-faced man heard the shout but couldn't hear it clearly, so he immediately asked with a puzzled expression. It sounds like someone is shouting, but I can't hear what he's shouting, said Boss Huang curiously. It's strange. This Agricola is really a bit strange today. Chapter 886. On the flat hillside several hundred meters away, Tan Xiu was calmly overlooking the situation in Green Lake Agricola with his hands behind his back. Others might not be able to see it clearly, but he clearly saw the brief fight between Gong Quan and Xiaoya. Invisibility technique? Tan Xiu didn't expect that there was such a brilliant invisibility technique on Earth. Even he couldn't see how the black-clothed youth sneaked into the Green Lake Agricola. Behind him. It's Ghost Shadow Boss, said Mo Au in a deep voice. Do you know him? Tan Xiu turned his head and curiously asked. I've read his information, and there's nothing wrong with his appearance. Mo Au nodded. His invisibility technique is the same as Ghost Shadow's. He can disappear and reappear out of thin air. He's one of the top 20 killers in the world, a cold-blooded animal who has committed inhuman killings in Southeast Asia and some parts of Africa. He's like a lot of homicidal maniacs. Not only does he kill the mission target, but he also wantonly slaughters ordinary people. As far as I know, the number of ordinary people who died in his hands is definitely more than 1,000. Tan Xiu's expression turned cold and asked, So, he's from the Lien family? I don't know about that. Mo shook his head. His origin is very mysterious. Even the assassin organization he once belonged to doesn't know his real background. It's like he appeared out of thin air and caused a lot of killings in various countries all over the world. But then he disappeared without a trace in just a few years. Tan Xiu nodded and no longer spoke. Inside Green Lake Agricola, Xiaoya's face was full of gloominess. Even though he was hiding in the dark, his heart was hanging high. He used to kill people like flies, but he had never been so afraid like now. He found that the Agricola he was in was too strange. It was smooth when he came in, but he couldn't leave. What the hell is that energy shield? Xiaoya looked at the corner of the wall a dozen meters away, where two stalwart men wielding long blades were observing the surroundings. His mood was particularly depressed. He didn't attack the two stalwart men because there were 6 experts lurking in the other 2 directions. As long as he killed the 2 stalwart men, the people in the other 2 directions would immediately notice him and besiege him. Through observation, he discovered that the enemies here weren't very strong, but for some reason he felt fear in his heart. It was as if somewhere, in some corner, there was something terrifying staring at him, as if it could attack him at any time. I have to go out and find a way to inform the patriarch. Otherwise, if someone from the clan were to recklessly barge in, it's very likely that they would all be annihilated. A few kilometers away from Green Lake Agricola, Lien Bai was smoking a cigarette next to the 6 off-road vehicles parked by the roadside. His eyes flickered and he was obviously thinking about something. By air. 2 white-haired old men walked over. Their bodies exuded a heavy aura of lethargy, but their bodies were tall and straight, and their footsteps were very steady. Lien Bai quickly threw away the cigarette and respectfully said, Ancestor. Lien Wenin and Lien Wenxin were the 2 ancestors of the Lien family. Lien Wenin asked, What's going on? Since you know where the enemy is, why aren't you moving? I've sent Little Ya to sneak into the Green Lake Agricola to gather information. He should be able to easily find out the situation there with his ability, said Lien Bai. It's just that he has been there for a while and hasn't returned yet. Our Lien family has sent our elite troops this time, said Lien Wendian indifferently. Do we need to be so careful with just a few juniors of the occult family? The way I see it, we should go over right now and kill them with the momentum of destroying everything in our way. Ancestor, know your enemy and know yourself and you will always be victorious, said Lien Bai quickly. I have no doubt that we can kill all those bastards. But I'm the patriarch, so I have to think about our clansmen. We can formulate a better combat plan after we figure out the enemy's situation, and we can also reduce the losses of our clansmen. Lien Wendian pondered for a moment before he nodded and said, What you said makes sense. We all know Little Ya's ability. Since he hasn't come back yet, it means that this Green Lake Agricola is not simple. Let's wait and see. If Little Ya hasn't come back in 10 minutes, then we'll directly attack. Lien Bai thought for a while and said, It's up to you, ancestor. Lien Wenxin, who had been silent all this time, suddenly said, My 9 fetuses of 100 ghost streamer is still short of 39 souls. If the number of enemies is less than 39, then capture some ordinary people for me. I didn't come out of seclusion just for some trivial matters of gratitude and grudges. Lien Bai was shaken inwardly and respectfully said, You can rest assured, ancestor. I'll definitely help you gather 39 souls. I'll torture and kill them according to your rules. Lien Wenxin nodded with satisfaction and sighed. You're the right person to be the next patriarch of our Lien family. We must be ruthless if we want to be the most powerful family in the occult sect. So what if we have to turn the world upside down as long as we can become stronger? I understand, said Lien Bai respectfully. 10 minutes later, everyone from the Lien family drove the 6 SUVs towards Green Lake Agricola. Although Xiaoye didn't return, Lien Bai still decided to launch the attack since the 2 ancestors of the Lien family had spoken. Even if he still had some concerns, he still decided to attack. They believed that no conspiracy or trick could compare to absolute power. As long as they were powerful enough, even if the Green Lake Agricola was a huge trap, it wouldn't be a threat to them. At this moment, in the inner hall of the Green Lake Agricola, Li Chang, who had just arrived, was accompanying Boss Huang with a smile on his face. However, Boss Huang was in a bad mood. Perhaps it was because he recalled the beating incident the day before yesterday, but he kept a cold face toward Li Chang. Boss Song, when will your newly developed dishes be delivered? It's been a long time. We can't just wait here, can we? Boss Huang asked with a bit of dissatisfaction upon seeing Song Donglai enter the hall. Just a moment, Boss Huang, said Song Donglai with a smile. Qiangzi is here? What's wrong? You also know Boss Huang? Li Chang acted according to the plan he discussed with Song Donglai on the phone before and smilingly said, Cousin, Boss Huang will be my big boss in the future, so of course I know him. That's right. My boss is coming here to have a meal, so you must give him at least a 40% discount. That's all for today, said Song Donglai with a bright smile. You are. Boss Huang was surprised. Qiangzi is my cousin, said Song Donglai with a smile. Boss Huang immediately understood. His expression toward Li Chang finally eased up as he nodded and said, Bring the contract to me later, Li Chang. I'll sign it. Li Chang grabbed the briefcase and took out the drafted contract from it. He placed it in front of Boss Huang and smilingly said, I've already prepared it, boss. I'll give it to my original company as long as you sign it. Once I get the money, I'll immediately resign and come to work for you. Boss Huang hesitated for a moment and glanced at Song Donglai. Finally, he signed the contract. Ring, ring, ring. The mobile phone in Song Donglai's pocket suddenly rang. When he took it out and picked it up, his complexion suddenly changed and he said with a shortness of breath, Qiangzi, hurry up and take Boss Song away from here. Hurry up. I'm going to be in danger soon. Li Chang pretended to be puzzled and asked, What do you mean, cousin? How come you're going to be in danger? We're living in a legal society now. Could it be that someone still wants to find trouble with you? Cut the crap and quickly take Boss Huang away. Song Donglai pretended to be angry and said, Else, you won't be able to leave later. Boss Huang got up and asked with a frown, "What exactly happened, Boss Song? We've been waiting for so long, yet we haven't eaten anything yet." Song Donglai forced a wry smile and said, "I just received the news that my enemies have somehow found this place. I've been hiding here for decades, yet I didn't expect that they would still find me. Hurry up and get out of here. The other party has a very big background." Boss Huang hesitated for a moment before he nodded and said, "If that's the case, then we won't bother you anymore. We'll come back to support you another day, Boss Song." Having said that, he then called more than 20 of his men and quickly headed outside. However, just as they came to the parking lot, they saw 6 SUVs roaring toward them. Song Donglai came out with 4 big men. After seeing the 6 SUVs, he shouted, "Qiangzi, take Boss Huang and come back quickly." Damn, how did they come so fast? Upon hearing this, Li Chang instantly grabbed Boss Huang's arm and strode towards Song Donglai. The more than 20 thugs looked at each other in dismay. However, they didn't show any fear because they often fought and brawled as if it was their daily routine. Not to mention that they had no enmity with these people. Even if they did, they thought that they didn't need to be afraid since they had so many people on their side. After the SUVs stopped, Lien Bai strode out of the door. His eyes full of killing intent fell on Song Donglai. He instantly clenched his fists and fiercely shouted, "You bastard surnamed Song. I've been looking for you for 21 years and I finally found you today. I'll make you pay 100-fold for killing my younger brother and my clansmen." Song Donglai looked at the more than 20 people who came out of the 6 cars. His expression drastically changed when he saw the 2 ancestors of the Lien family. Following a roar, more than 20 people ran out of the Agricola. At this time, he shouted in a deep voice, "Lien Bai, you're well aware of what happened in the past. Your younger brother committed all kinds of crimes and disregarded human life. We 3 brothers happened to meet him, so we naturally couldn't just stand by and watch. Hence, they deserve to die." Lien Bai strode over and fiercely said, "My Lien family doesn't need others to tell us what to do. In short, we can finally put an end to the blood feud between us today. Don't worry, I won't kill you immediately. I'll torture you until you wish you were dead, and then I'll send your soul to my ancestors." You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.